Welcome everyone who is popping by, thank you. I'm not too sure if my internet connection is very good this evening. I see there's already been a few likes, and Reviving Real News is here, and GM is here. I think I saw Abe earlier. Thank you for being here. And hopefully you've watched, I know you guys have watched the sort of intro video, so I appreciate that. Where to begin? I had a different video that I was going to kickstart this series off with, titled Trauma. So that's a spoiler for the next video. But just before releasing it, I figured, well, there needs to be a bit of honesty first, some acknowledgement. Some people might not even realize they are experiencing trauma. So I decided to quickly cobble together this presentation about pretending. I was close to calling this video "Stop the Bullshitting." I thought that would be more appropriate. Well, maybe not appropriate. I think that's why I chose not to try to limit the vulgarities. But that was the kind of sentiment, was there's a lot of bullshit, and not just out there, but internally, you know. We like to think that we are level-headed people, but if we were really truly honest, the amount of crap we kind of tell ourselves and then tell other people and expect them to sort of fall for it is probably more than we realize. And on this channel, the focus here is becoming more prevalent, which is good to see, that the seriousness of mental health should be taken seriously, or should be addressed. And that is a multi-pronged, there's multiple facets that go towards mental health. Self-improvement is a sort of tangent to that. It comes under the sort of like title of like self-care, doing good by you. Maybe you don't have mental health issues, but you're still trying to, improve your life, get it on track and things like that. Well, all of those sort of things require some humility, some honesty, some transparency. It's hard to make changes if you don't really identify what needs to be changed and where things have gone awry. And so you don't know how to exactly direct your energy. So yeah, I'm going to be doing a short series. I don't know how many videos it will be, but we'll be looking, first of all, with trying to be transparent and honest and not have to like pretend and lie to ourselves, to remove the stigma of vulnerability, to say what it is on your mind and to speak authentically from the heart, even if it's painful, to honor our humanity, our spirit, instead of disrespecting it, instead of captivating it in such a way where we deny ourselves the freedom of expression and have a kind of inner tyrannical, self-restricting, limiting motif about us. So the next video, the next topic will be about trauma, and these are leading up. These are the baby steps leading up to what I was playing around with the phrase of hacking the brain to rewire it. I don't know if I'll still keep that title of hacking the brain, but it's in that kind of vein anyway. So after trauma, we'll be looking at perceptions, we'll be looking at memories, how they are formed. And then towards the end of the series, we'll be discussing a plan of action or a prescription of sorts, things that we can do to start taking. There's one thing to say, oh, people need to be more responsible, but we can't even get to that stage yet until there's some realization of what's actually taking place. Responsible for what exactly? And then we can start to reverse engineer, i.e. deconstruct. And it's kind of funny, it only just occurred to me today, or maybe last night, that, I mean, good mothers here, we used to do dissection video dissections, and it's a little bit like that in a way, but I think I don't know if it's fair to say, GM can speak, but I think with dissections, it's kind of like based on sort of case studies, and we can learn from it, and we've had many hours doing it, but with this deconstruction approach, it's more of a broader spectrum, more about particularly in terms of a personal understanding of deconstructing our beliefs, our ideas, the stories we tell ourselves, and not with the intent of just annihilating people, but with the intent of actually being able to rebuild, to reconfigure. And you've heard me mentioning before this idea of recalibration. So that is why it's kind of like a necessary evil. I don't want to say evil, but a necessary part of that is to take things apart, clean them out, and reassemble. So yeah, there were a few different titles. It took me ages to think of a sort of title. Stop telling lies. Stop living in La La Land. Stop the bullshit. Stop living in a dream, or whatever. Now, there's going to be this discussion this evening. There's going to be two sides to it, and I feel like I might be being a bit of a dick here. So, by all means, give me a bit of a slapping if I'm stepping over reason, stepping over like the line, or speaking out of turn or something, or maybe I might seem a bit discompassionate. And I'm trying to catch myself to make sure I'm not being judgmental or righteous. That this part of me explaining will be more evident when we're talking about the second part of the discussion. The first part will be basically talking about those who need help, and that's the main focus. Those who are trying to do the inner work, who are trying to be serious about their health and well-being. And the second part is the sort of more grifter and the other people who take advantage, or the distractors who lead people astray from doing what they need to do. And that's where I might be a bit righteous and judgmental. And it was kind of interesting. Just before, I was tucking my kid into bed, and I said to her, you got to go to bed because I'm going to be having, I call these stream to her, I call them, I'm having a meeting. I'm having a meeting tonight. So she asked me the question, what is the meeting about? And I love her sort of questions because it makes me have to condense into a crystal clear way of her understanding, for her to, to understand and get a hands on the idea. So I was like, what am I going to be talking about tonight? Because it sounds a bit woo-woo, if you know what I mean. It sounds a bit hippy-dippy, a bit kind of like inner work, spiritual understanding, acknowledging an inner self. These are big concepts, and there is a vagueness about them. They're quite flexible in a way. Maybe that's something we kind of take for granted. So I said something along the lines to her like, there are people who will say positive things in order to hide something, like that. I couldn't use the word insecurity, but I was trying to allude to that. There are people who say positive things who are sort of like covering something up. They might feel shame, for example. They feel embarrassed, or they don't want people to see the real them. And that's understandable. But there are also other people who say these positive things because they got more, that they're tricking. Now, I can't say nefarious, I can't say devious, I can't say that kind of stuff because she doesn't understand those words, but I'll say she understands about tricking. People trick you. Oh, you tricked me, you played a trick on me. So I said to her, like, so there are some people who will say nice things, but they're actually kind of tricking. They're tricking people. And a lot of times they're pretending to be something that they're not. So it's a tricky one for for you, like for her to, when going in life, to understand, to know when someone is being genuine and when maybe they're talking about what they would like to happen as an ambition, and when someone is trying to trick you. So a very difficult thing for a young mind to take on board. And I left the conversation at that. It was time for bed. So really the spirit of that video, that introduction and this conversation, is because for those who are well-intended, those who need the help, I'm sure this is a relatable idea, that there is this kind of little voice sort of inside whispering, like trying to help you, trying to get you to do the right things. Maybe it might come across as a little bit of a nag, but simultaneously it's being drowned out by another voice, and that one is more of a sort of compulsion type of, well, psychologically we'd probably call it like the inner critic. But I think it has many dimensions to it. There's the sort of a compulsion side to it, there is addictive side to it, there is a trauma side to it, there is the inner critic side to it, a low self-esteem side to it. It's almost like a mob, a gang of voices against this one tiny little voice who's actually trying to be a friend to you. That inner child would be the AKA way of looking at it. And it's fighting against the odds in a way. I mean, and there's reverence towards it. It's like, is what I'm describing here, is it simply just a case of low self-esteem, or is it a lot more? Is it mainly fear that we're frightened to want to listen to this voice? Because it doesn't really logically make sense. If you've got a part of you that is trying to help you, trying to get you to do the things that you know you should be doing. And even if you don't know exactly what to do, you know that you should be moving in that direction of sorting yourself out. But yet, despite all of that, you wouldn't be able to really write down reasonable arguments for not doing it. But yet, many people don't follow the advice. Don't listen to this this little angel, this whatever, this the inner child. We seem to wish it wasn't. It seems people are more interested. It's like I want to live in fantasy land, and the little voice is telling me, no, you're dreaming. It's time to come back to reality. So is it really a case of just simply low self-esteem, or is the fear, or the fear of being true to yourself, or the fear of reality, or maybe feeling undeserving, that is the bigger obstacle? But whatever it is, that in itself is already a big topic to explore at some point. But the situation as it stands is that, well, you're in a dissonance, you're in a battle with yourself. An inner war is raging, and sometimes people will describe it as a spiritual war. Well, who is the spiritual war with? Is it with other? It's an internal one, and I think that doesn't get quite acknowledged. We like to externalize and think the problem is outside of us. So I want to try and encourage people to stop pretending there is stuff going on inside, and that needs to be in harmony. And if there is an external, complications, that's like secondary, that you're not going to be able to deal with that. Maybe people try to distract themselves by occupying themselves with it in order to avoid having to deal with their own self. But as the situation stands, you're fighting with yourself. And I think this contributes to things like the suicide numbers and the numbers of those who live in a state of numbness, confusion, and they don't know what to do. Their emotions have been dulled down because, well, they're so sensitive to how they feel. Either it results in some way they've become numb to it. Maybe they've turned off their emotions. Maybe they feel better to just become robotic and don't want to have to think anymore. And I can appreciate that one. Thinking can drive you nuts. So let me see. And then we find, people find them, they gather in groups, they form communities. And I'm wondering how the premise of these communities, how helpful are they? Do they actually really help? Because the advertisement is apparently we're saving lives, and maybe that's true. But then what are these numbers that I hear about? So there is a risk involved when it comes to, like therapy and deep diving and the inner work. becoming vulnerable and things like that. But without the right attentive care, you could theoretically trigger someone to become petrified, and it can be all too much. Something like maybe the black pill runs a risk of doing at times. It's one thing to try to make people aware of everything, hey, everybody, look, you've got dangers, you're being exploited, you're being taken advantage, all of this, and then being like, okay, off you go. It's like, oh, gee, thanks. You've just shattered my world. Told me that I'm super vulnerable, I'm isolated, and I'm going to have to do everything on my own. I have no tools and I have no experience. And now you're just going to leave me to it? So that's why, for anyone offering life coaching, therapy, advice, it's serious responsibility. Even though you're trying to teach or encourage the other person who needs help to be responsible, they're not ready for it. So there's a little bit of taking someone under your wing, kind of, mentoring, parenting. You don't just let your kids run off absolutely without any precautions or diligence. It's a balancing act, because obviously you don't want to wrap them up in bubble wrap and coddle them, but you got to be able to gauge, are they ready for it? So, and it can be easy to assume, just because, hey, it worked for me, check out what I've done, whatever, that it's going to be compatible for the other person. And I think sometimes we're trying, I think for the most part, people have good intentions and they mean well. And they're trying to provide good examples and sort of like role model behavior, which for the most part is like logical, good, sound advice, but can have that, again, tricky element where perhaps it's not considering that the other person that you're trying to help is their own person. They might not have the same kind of like mental structure as you do. They might not see the world the same way. They have needs of their own that need to be catered for. And it could be very easy to be like, like, fuck your feelings, just get on with it. Well, for some people, those feelings are more important in some ways than becoming how they would probably see as robotic or as life ending in a way. I'm trying to think of maybe some examples where this can maybe this might not be the best of examples, but like we talk about the truth and how even if it hurts, like if you care about someone, tell them the truth. But where was I going to go with that? But this person might not actually, they might not really actually want the truth. No, I kind of done it backwards. We talk about how sometimes there's an acknowledgement that now and again you hear people say like, hey, not everyone is ready to be unplugged. Not everyone. Maybe it's better for some people to just carry on living the blue pill fantasy, whatever. If they're happy, leave them be. But then simultaneously we say like, I'm just going to tell people the truth. So it's kind of like, well, if you're gonna leave them in fantasy land, then what are you doing telling them the truth then? You know, maybe you decide not to talk to them at all, and that's the best way about it. You'll only speak. So there's a caveat. There's like, I will only speak to the truth to those who actually want to hear the truth. And I'm sure those who want to live in La La Land will have a kind of automatic filter and filter out the truth that you speak of. But I just find it a little bit of a sort of oxymoron. Yeah. Now I was gonna let me give some appreciation to the audience here. Who's it? I see Self-Made. I see Silver Bullet. I see A Freebird. GM's here reviving real news. Anyone I'm missing? CJ's here. Self-Made. Already said Self-Made. Yeah. Okay. I'm just skimming the comments, but very true. Self-Made says sometimes people don't want help because once you step out of denial, you can't go back. In denial, you're fully in denial. Yeah, you're fully exposed now once you know, right? And that kind of responsibility has been thrusted upon you. It's like, well, there you go. You can't pretend you didn't hear it now, unless you want to put some effort into sort of like blocking that kind of stuff out. But then that's where the sort of haunting voice will follow someone, and make it harder for them to live in this dreamlike state. So this is the sort of challenge, and where we see a lot of struggles going on, because I suspect there is a part of them that is sort of grateful that someone is, or they've come across some evidence to suggest that their perceptions and they're living in a distorted, that they might, there's doubt, because one of the greatest tricks of denial is to be invisible. You're so deluded. I don't mean this in a condescending way, but you're so in your own world that you don't even realize it's an alternate reality. You think it's the real thing, or you would like to think it's the real thing. So even though, despite coming across evidence that's on the contrary to it, I think there is a bit of gratitude there. But the resistance to it, these other voices that try to keep someone hostage, binded, is, I think, where the focus of our endeavors should be for the time being, to give that little voice a bit of backup, to encourage and support, and be like, no, I know it's terrifying, I know it's hard, but it's there, it's trying to help you out. This other group, these addictions, the trauma, the dependency, the shame, the feeling of low self-esteem and self-worth and undeserving, they're not your friend. They're not trying to help you. And if you can actually just think about it, you'd realize, yeah, you're right, they are not helping me. So why is it I'm so loyal to that? Excuse me. So loyal to that, and hold that negative view of myself in such high regard that matters more than myself. I was planning So Self-Made says, ask a question. Do you think that not dealing with your inner work and staying in denial, this is where a lot of bad behaviors manifest? Workaholic, alcoholism, addictions. Do I think this is where a lot of bad behaviors manifest? Well, those kind of alcoholism, addictions are generally looked at as like a coping behavior. I suppose workaholic also, but that could also fall into a OCD or OCPD, obsessive compulsiveness. So there's additional factors. Like, we're just talking about someone who generally is, maybe you would probably class it like low self-esteem or something like that. But yeah, there needs to be some acknowledgement. Like, could we be dealing with someone who has bipolar? Could we be dealing with someone who has financial issues? Could we be dealing? There's so many additional elements that it does make it hard to just have a generalized, yeah, so here, hey, so and so, just basically lift some weights, go out for a walk, eat healthy, bish bash bob, you're a good, no problems. A lot of bad behaviors are learned bad behaviors, and if you've got in your environment bad role models that you don't recognize as bad role models, society is telling you to do this and that as well, then perhaps there's you get cultivated or culturalized into thinking something, and then later on you find out that it's been very hedonistic or it's been working against you. I mean, look at the feminism that's pretty much been cultivated into them, and now they're paying the cost. It's not so much, I think. See, I think maybe this is just like the area that I'm dealing with, but if people can stop pretending and have some acknowledgement, now they're at a precipice of opportunity. Now, like you were saying about bursting the denial bubble, well, now there's a fork in the road. Now you have a decision to make, and even if in a kind of cheeky kind of way, even if you want to pretend that fork in the road didn't occur, well, you're trying to avoid the responsibility. It's kind of like tough. It's been forced on you now. Now you're gonna have to, at least if you're gonna go down the road of negligence, you're kind of affirming. You can't really play innocent anymore. You can't say that, I was a bit gullible and naive. No, now you're actually intentionally choosing that way. Freebird says, truth cannot be told. One must come to it on their own. I agree. And I think when they do that as well, it really lands home for them. It really resonates at that point, and maybe at that point as well, they kind of go, yeah, you know what? People have been telling me this for so long, but it just wasn't really penetrating. Now I get it. Now I get it. And that's when the penny drops. And that's a very optimistic point as well, I think, where it's like, finally, and obviously that's just day one. That's just the start of things. And I think maybe sometimes just that idea as well of like this journey seems so immense and daunting that it could make people very frightful of wanting to even bother with it. Something biblical here. As Jesus said, do not come to me unless you hate yourself. Yikes. I'm sure there's a lot of scripture in this sort of like area of this field of discussion here, but that's kind of unfortunate. You know, it's like, oh, so you're only going to go to Jesus when you run out of when you've finished dicking around and you've run out of all other options. Now you come to Jesus for salvation. And salvation kind of, yeah. So, and it makes me wonder. Now, no disrespect to the community, but you know, it's been described as a lifestyle, and I'm like, but how true is that? Maybe for some people, it's like an outsider would look at it and be sort of these are a lot of guys who have been through the ringer. You know, they've been through a lot of pain. There are a lot of. It's kind of like a refugee, a refuge. It's a kind of safe haven or safe space. It's a lot of people from different walks of life, and now and again you hear people sort of asking that question: are they really going their own way if they're gathering together, trying to help each other out? So, you know, we within the community, yeah, we can say whatever we like. We can say it's a lifestyle choice. We can say it's a philosophy. We can say it's principles and tenets. Is that really what it is, or are these aspirations of what we would like it to be? So, i.e., like we're not quite there yet, but we're striving towards it, and that's not a downgrade. You know, at least there's some sort of vision. At least there's some sort of goal. But it's this kind of like realism, you know. And there is this argument where it's like if you want to have self-improvement is to sort of envision where you want to be, and that in itself will align your energy or your efforts into fulfilling that goal. So there's not a criticism. It's just a kind of like, because if it is achieving its goal, if we are already at the finish line, then why is it we see so many problems still? So are we, has the work been done? You know, or do we still have further to go? Are we still charting the course? Is that the right way of saying it? Charting the course? Are we still defining what it is? Or do we actually have a consolidated definition yet? Where are the perimeters and boundaries? I was expecting, let me just check this Discord, because I was expecting a guest to join me here this evening, and they don't seem to. So, oh no, my guest, can you hear me? Do you need me to send you another link? I don't know if you're watching or something. Well, hopefully they're okay. Because I could fall back and be like, hey, hey guest, you take the mic for a bit. So okay, let's move into the other side of this. Let's just have a bit of a talk about the distractors, the ones who are a bit more, and this comes in as a, you know, there's subdivisions of those, some who don't realize they are being not as helpful, or being like two peas in a pod, or you know, a bad influence. You know, they're exchanging their traumas and triggering one another. And so we need to be a bit more being able to spot when this sort of stuff is happening and trying to maybe diffuse or redirect in more beneficial ways. But yeah, I kind of want to, yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about the more nefarious ones, like the griftery type of characters, because I think in exposing that, then for the kind of person who is having this inner battle of the good voice and the compulsion, or the trauma, the voice, the good, or just say, all right, fine, we'll just say, all right, the angel and demons, all right, let's just go there. If they have if they can see externally that hey, there are people trying to take advantage, then at least they can maybe take that inner battle, and their two sides can focus their fight towards the external enemy. I'm not necessarily saying it's an enemy, but opponent, because I don't want to come down too hard on the grifters or people who are, because they're doing it for their own things, and you can't really change what they're going to do. Like people who want to live in La La Land and preach the fake prophets, they're going to carry on talking that kind of stuff. It's like, in terms of the narcissism, it's like trying to change it's like you can't stop that. The lesson here is to be able to recognize it so that you can then stay away from it. So there's no malice towards, like as predatory as they may be, but there doesn't need to be malice or rage at that. Maybe there might be rage more at your frustration with yourself for falling for their lies and tricks and believing their shenanigans. But with a bit of education, a bit of understanding, a bit of whatever, you start to spot the mind games, the way things are twisted and leveraged, and that slowly is taking on responsibility. Maybe you're not even realizing it. You're taking on a bit of responsibility in discernment, in understanding what it is you're doing. And so there will be questions that at some point you'll have to ask yourself, like, why do I go to these these spheres, these whatever, these streams? What am I doing? Like, am I trying to, do I want to allow myself to be distracted in this way? Is this beneficial? What is it? What do I want from this kind of thing? Do I just want my ears to be tickled? Is that what I'm doing? Am I just wasting time? Or am I actually like learning? Am I actually trying to self-develop? Or, is there some purpose? So, that kind of ties in with the idea of the community. Is like, is it really a lifestyle, or is it more of a chill out? Are we just here to chill out? Is this really going your own way? Is this, now I get it, like, downtime, relaxed time. Some channels focus on gaming, or maybe driving or cooking or whatever. Right, it's fine. You've got your niche and whatnot. It's not really about the format of the channels people are going on. It's more self asking your question, like, what am I doing? What am I hoping to achieve? And then, do I really have the right to complain when I don't achieve the things that I set out to, that I said I want in life, but I haven't actually done anything to go in that direction? Because you're not going to be able to really say, like, look, let's say I wanted to start a business, All right, 2 years go by. Where's your business? I didn't do a business. I haven't made a business. Why not? Oh, I've been chilling out all this time. Like, well, why were you chilling out? Well, I don't know. Like, well, then how can you expect to have a business? Well, I don't know. So is that entitlement? So I don't know, like get your ducks in a row or something like that. Get your head out your ass, or I don't know. I'm not sure what to say. Where is the obstacle here? What is it you need? Be clear. Do you need help? Say so. What kind of help do you need? Do you need someone to give you a kick up the backside? Okay, fine, we can do that. Do you need a what do they call it? For the alcoholics, a checking in, but what's that? What do you call it when you got like a buddy that you call every day? Even if it's sort of just to say hello and then bye, but it's just a sort of like a accountability buddy. Is that right? The accountability buddy. Do you need something like that? What is it you need? Do you need someone to write out a organizer for you, to break down, give you a timetable? Spend an hour here doing this, do this, because if we lean into the MBTI, there will be areas in everyone's cognition where they have a weakness. Some people aren't going to be good with numbers. Some people aren't going to be good with filling in forms. Some people aren't going to be good with their diet or self-care. Some people aren't going to be good with joining the dots and seeing the bigger picture. Like, do you need someone to explain this as a to join the connections here? Like if you don't look after your health, if you don't take your medications, you end up in hospital. You go to hospital, you'll be stuck there. Do you see the trajectory here? Like, you can't go to work because you're too busy in hospital, and now you've got a hospital bill, so your finances are going to be depleted. Like, I didn't see the bigger picture. Well, there you go. I think MGTOW tries to talk about the bigger picture quite a bit. Like, look, if you fall for the system, if you get yourself caught up in the system, you're going to have problems with the courts. You're going to have problems with your relations. You might have problems with your kids. You'll have problems with your accommodation, and it kind of connects them all. So I think as a generalization, there's a good level of intuition embedded into the MGTOW community. I suppose where maybe it might fall a little short is the sensory department of but even then they try and cover the facts and statistics. So maybe it's a well balanced in terms of cognitive function stacks. But it's something just to be mindful of, just so that we can keep maintenance, so we know that we're not neglecting any one particular area. No, yeah, going back to the sort of the griftery type of folks. And if we're not careful, it's something to be observant of, is a contagion aspect. Someone starts to do a roast and we see it ripple out. Now everyone's doing a roast, or someone starts saying, think about the children, and now everyone is being virtuous and being like, the kids, and think about the future generations. And that is why I am part of the lifestyle philosophy, is to save the children. But you could have the argument that, well, look where you are today. You're saying that you're doing much better now. No one gave you any help when you were growing up. So do the children, aren't the children already at a bit of an advantage in a way? So are we need to be careful. We're not using, because that's what the feminists would do, and the left and the woke, they would say, think of the children. They would be using them as a spearhead for their campaign. Um, so okay, I got like bullet points. So we can start with the first one. So why are some people like they're fakers, they're grifters, they're pretenders, they showboat, however it's described, they're they're salesmen. You know, as first of all, they got some they got their own needs, so maybe they're trying to compensate. Maybe they got some low self-esteem, so this is how this is their mask, the presentation they present to the world for acceptance and validation. You know, so maybe they need some of their ego being stroked. Some maybe they're trying, like, a grifter is pretty straight, that they want money. You know, maybe they're doing it as a control, like a cult. You know, they want people to pledge their allegiance, and so they feel more important. I suppose it ties in with the low self-esteem. They feel more important if they can control people. So how do they go about doing this trick? How can we spot it? Well, pretty, like, you need to know when people are sort of virtue signaling. Maybe they start telling you about the charitable deeds they've done. Maybe they start talking about truth and how they are the prophet or the wise one. Maybe they're making false promises to you, like, hey, sign up to my course or whatever and be like me, and your life will be just as good as mine, sort of thing. Or false promises in a sense of, like, I can grant you freedom. I can get your nutrition on track, and I can make you. I can cure you of your ailments. As absurd as that is, I have heard it. So yeah, watch out for these false promises. Maybe they're being a bit of a drama queen or a diva, because a lot of these people like to sort of have their version of glitz and glamour. It's a production show. Now I get it. Sometimes you need that as part of the grifting. Like, you're trying to, like, you are the product or something like that. But you need to understand that drama is a commodity, and you become more than just a viewer. You become the customer, and you're paying through your attention. Now, maybe you're fine with that, but if you're spending your energy as attention, then to someone else, then where's your attention to yourself? And you wonder why maybe you're neglecting your self-care and you're not giving yourself the attention that you need. It's because you're outsourcing it. And as much as I think maybe one of the reasons why it's a message that is hammered hard of controlling your emotions is because of just how emotional people really are. And that's how advertising works. It appeals to your emotional faculties. So we need to be a bit more acknowledgeable and not so dismissive. There's no point just saying control your emotions. It's more a case of be responsible for your emotions, because just blase, control your emotions isn't really controlling your emotions. I made this analogy ages ago about people would moan about mobile phones and the internet being a disaster. And my point of view was this: it was like, look, the internet, mobile phones, these are great devices. The trouble isn't the technology. The trouble is the responsibility in using that technology. So there's no point just saying to someone, stop using your phone, stop being on the internet. All you're really saying is that I am so irresponsible that I have to have these things away from me because I can't trust myself around them. And that's the kind of same message we're saying with this emotion stuff. It's like, look, you're so irresponsible with your emotions that you need to sort of control them. You need to nullify them. You need to like not allow them. I mean, what happens if you suppress your emotions? They're going to build up into monsters. At some point, they haven't been processed, so it's going to rear its ugly head. You're bottling things in. So I think the better, instead of just saying like control your emotions, I think it's better to be like, look, you be responsible for them. Realize you have emotions. Realize you have an obligation to be attentive to that. Then, and in doing so, but as a byproduct, controlling your emotions will then come into play. You know, it's sort of controlling your emotions become built into it as a result of being responsible for it. So why is it people follow these? By my course, Wheelchair Maxim teaches you game in the car, home, and nursing homes. Yeah, pimp my ride. Okay, so why do people fall for the grift? Why do people fall for these charisma? Well, maybe charisma is one of it, but why are you so susceptible to falling for it? You know, and obviously, like, if people are isolated or they feel ostracized from society, and then you've got some charismatic person who has their group of people, then you're going to be drawn towards it. And I'm not necessarily saying that all these sort of channel owners or whoever, these personalities, I'm not saying that they're the devil, and they should all be banned and censored or whatever. I'm just, again, it's just like having some awareness of what it is. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just some simple takeaways from today's stream will be like: 1, stop the bullshit. 2, what are you doing? 3, what do you want? 4, if you can't stop lying, shut your fucking mouth. Pretty simple. It ain't rocket science. So why do they fall for it? Maybe they don't realize they're falling for it. Is that temptation? And this, if it were to be devious, this is where like the narcissist would flourish. So like maybe you're being love bombed. You think of some of the strategies of a narcissist, like maybe being love bombed. Maybe you're being encouraged to form a dependency. Maybe they're trying to enmesh. Maybe they're projecting some self-esteem, and so this isn't a you shouldn't feel embarrassed or ashamed for being sucked in. It's not because you're stupid or you haven't got intelligence. It can happen to anybody, and it does happen to everybody, to some extent. And people come and go. It's kind of, I don't want to say it's a natural thing, but it's a commonplace. It shouldn't really be normal, but don't be surprised how frequently it happens, and don't beat yourself up over it. Be more appreciative that, like, okay, I now have better self-awareness to regulate myself, so that if I were to entertain it, at least I'm being acknowledgeable that, okay, look, I'm going to chill out for 2 hours. I'm going to watch a cooking show for 2 hours. Fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Is when you become a couch potato and you realize, oh my God, my whole life has just gone by, and all I've done, I'm just a pile of melted goo. Like binge watching, for example, is a addictive type of thing, and that's another element. Like maybe there's some addiction. We're talking about it earlier, so maybe this is why some people might fall for it, because they've got this sort of addictiveness. They latch onto things far too easily. Especially if, like, let's say you were trying to come off drugs or alcohol or whatever it is your addiction is, you're going to be pretty prone to picking up a new addiction. That is a bit of discipline and vigilance. Then an addictive kind of personality might not even realize they've substituted one addiction for another. And it could be there's a whole bunch of other like maybe the person has a high level of agreeableness, wants to socialize. They're quite a social person, even though they might say they're withdrawn and introvert or something. They're actually they need they've got a high level of the agreeableness and don't want to be confrontational. So they're a bit of a people pleaser, maybe. They like to mingle. So this might be there's a compromise that plays into it. Okay, so what happens if people do become part of these distracting groups? And we can also look at what happens if they don't. Well, if they do merge, if they do join the group, you kind of lose your autonomy, your independence, if you're not careful anyway, and you turn into what we would call like a bit of a sheeple, a bit of a follower. Again, that's not really not everyone are leaders, and some people prefer to take a more submissive position. There are advantages to such things, like you don't have to be as responsible, for example. You don't have to call the shots, as it were. But this is the trade-off. This is what if you're going to be part of it, and for a while, it might make people feel like they belong. They feel better about themselves. They're being seen and accepted, and they're validated. So their moods may perk up. So that can be a benefit to being around accepting people who are treating you with respect and acknowledgement and things. But if you don't, especially if you do kind of gravitate to a group and then you kind of want to assert yourself and have some independence, this is where you might end up having people turn against you. Suddenly now you're accused of being a backstabber or something, and you get name called, you get shamed. Maybe they might sort of bribe, what's the word, like make you feel like you're like, if you're not going to stay with us, they're gonna cause a bit of fear in you, like you're going to be an outcast, you're going to be ostracized, you're going to be on your own, you need us more than we need you, sort of thing. So like a fear of missing out, and you're not cool like the rest of us. And so now how that plays in with someone who is serious of, they've got mental issues or some other kind of problems, and they're serious about trying to improve their life. You can see how this is for the individual, they're already dealing with a lot of stuff, but then to have this kind of like drama orbiting around them isn't helping really, and can make it worse, because the individual is allocating all their time and energy and resources to dealing with the external world, that then they're neglecting their inner self, and it'll be hard for them to be their own man or find a purpose and not be distracted. And I think this is where that addiction side that binge watching can come back again, in the sense that people don't seem to be very my guest has left me a message. One moment. People don't seem to with knowing what they need to know. Kind of like, don't you know enough? Like, don't you know enough to get going now? Can't we take some action, take some steps? Like, not for my like, even though I might be nagging at you, like, come on, we need to see some results here. It's like, not really results for my benefits. It's like, you need to see some results for yourself. Like, come on. Instead of like trying to create sob stories or excuses or regurgitated reasons, especially if this person is someone who is going around like a kind of leader of sorts. They're trying to impose their rhetoric onto other people, and then you ask them for receipts. Be like, okay, you've got all this said, so where are you in life then? And it turns out that they're just like spinning their wheels. It At that point, really, you should know, you yourself should know enough, not that you shouldn't be perhaps listening to them or taking their advice, and you're wasting your time and energy, and you'll be far better off watching paint dry. Just give me a moment. Let me just message my guest. When did he send this? Oh, what? Right. Okay, so yeah. Now this is why I was saying at the very start of the stream, like, I don't want to be too judgmental or focus too much on that on these distractors. I don't even know if that's the right way of putting it. The real focus here is for the individual who is battling it out internally in their head, to give them encouragement, not to silence that little voice which is trying to do what's right, and resisting the demon. Again, and I'm being a bit facetious, but like to carry to really try and to not cave into it. There will be times when it does happen. Self-control slips. Pick yourself up. Don't beat yourself down about it. It's just part of the course, part of the process. And use those instances as opportunities to read. Those would be the moments of tough questioning. Like, not only like, what am I doing, but why am I doing it? What is going on here? And what do I need to do to turn the tide? Because as much as I try to lie to myself about it, it's pretty clear that if I was being honest, I don't like it. I don't feel happy about it. So again, more kind of like like, so what would make you happy, right? Might it be something like, what would make me happy is if I stop holding myself back, stop tripping myself up and not allowing myself the things I want. What would make me happy is to not be so self-destructing or self-defeating, or to believe, like maybe learned helplessness, like have this belief of I can't do this. What's the point? It's like, how can we change? How can we override this ingrained belief? And that's what I'm hoping to go through with continuing on in further videos and discussions of, like, looking at your perception, looking at how your brain has been wired, and how we can rewire it, how we can create new beliefs, how we can deconstruct these damaging, defeating beliefs that obviously aren't doing any good, but for some silly reason, you kind of hold them so dear, and how they can be replaced with better, more healthier ways of mindsets. I'm kind of running out of things to say here. So we'll have a quick look at the so wait. I'm gonna read it. If I'm gonna read a comment, I might as well have it displayed. So that sounds like an occult. If you leave, you get shamed. Does anyone have any anecdotal examples we can provide? I'm pretty sure, like, I might not be able to pinpoint exact instances, but I'm sure I mean, when there's a bit of in-house fighting, suddenly now it's kind of like, whoa, get out the pots and pans. Right, group up for protection. Yeah, it's kind of like schoolyard tactics, as well. And that's another kind of lens, if it helps, to look at things, where it's like you can start to sort of, again, not to be shameful about it, but you sort of, a lot of the times, our problems, we inflate them, we make them bigger than life. It's like, no way could I self-improve. That is just beyond the world of possibilities. That is a mountain that I cannot climb. But if we can depower, well, the demon I was just talking about, if we can that's why I was saying it's a bit of a silly idea, if we can like the narcissist is the devil. It's like, come on, that's being grandiose. No, they're not the devil. No, they're not superhuman. No, these aren't super problems. If we can, I mean, they are if you let them. But if you can kind of depower it, and you realize that you're telling me I was just basically scared of my own shadow. You mean I don't like spiders? Like, yeah, you wuss. Just you just need a bug zapper and you'll be fine. It's like, oh man, so easy. At the time, I thought it was a gigantic, monster. It's like, well, that's because your perception was playing tricks on you, and that's another reason. So that's why I said it's going to be that'll be an important topic or discussion, because that's going to really start to tinker around with how you perceive things, and how you can then see things more realistically, instead of, because that's one of the problems when you're having problems, is that you're looking at your problems with distortion. And where's the proof of, because if you're saying like, hey, look, I've got emotional problems, or I'm going through trauma, you've just like, without realizing it, you've just admitted that as a result, if this is true, then there is distortion. There is perception isn't seeing accurately reality. You're jumping to conclusions. You're reading between lines. Some people would say like, well, I'm very attuned to read in a room. So what are you admitting to? You're admitting that you're hypersensitive. So your sensory is hyperized. I don't know if that's the right word, but it's above and beyond it should be. My guest is here, everybody. One moment, please, guest. Let me just finish this little rant. I'm looking forward to having him on. But the clues are in the things that we say. So if you're admitting to being hypersensitive, that you're very tuned to how people feel, maybe it needs to be dialed. So no wonder, therefore, you might blow things out of proportion, or be, along with hypersensitive, be hyperreactive. So my guest is here. Please, everybody, if you would be so kind, a nice warm welcome for the legendary Bandit.
What's going on, Billy? How's it been?
You are having fun here with everybody.
Good.
Well,
sorry I got in a little late today. It's been a hell of a week.
Oh, okay. Well, glad you made it, and thank you for being here. And,
anytime. Wouldn't miss it for the world.
Don't neglect your worldly obligations.
Yeah,
of course. But yeah, so we appreciate you joining us and for this topic as well. I wasn't sure did you watch the video before? Have you been listening in the background? Are you up to speed?
Sadly, no. Today was I had a lot of stuff for work today. I had my innovation pitch, which I've been working on for the last 5.5 weeks. So I had to present it to VPs today. So I've been detoxing from that, stressful presentation. So I literally been running with chicken with my head cut off for the last, 5 weeks. So this is the first day where I can go. So sadly I didn't get to watch it. I definitely plan on watching it. I just didn't have the opportunity. There's so much personal stuff going on right now. Some of it is kind of personal, I don't want to talk about, but everything's okay. It's just there's a lot of personal stuff going on, so that's why I haven't been around, and I'm sorry for that. But I definitely do plan on.
No need to apologize at all. No, from what you're saying already, it sounds like you've had a lot on your plate, and you need a bit of downtime. Like we were talking about downtime earlier, decompress. I was railing on downtime as if it was some sort of evil sin, and shame on people for having downtime. But obviously, prime example of how it is much needed in cases.
Well, just like everything, downtime and being productive, you need both to have a happy life. So if you're lazy and don't do anything, you have no purpose. Hence why we're having a problem today. But if you're too busy, life's gonna pass you by and you're gonna miss opportunities. So
right,
you have to have a good balance. Everything in life is about balance.
Yes, you can't also work as efficiently if you haven't been, resting appropriately as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So sleep is productive.
Yeah, and it depends on your person. I'm a sleeper. If I don't get 8.5 hours, I'm dragging. It's a bad time for me. Some people can get. Now my best friend literally can get 3 hours of sleep, and he's a high functioning insomniac. He can get away with 3 hours of sleep. But I couldn't do that. So you got to know yourself.
Yeah, but I think with both sides of the work and the rest, you mentioned balance, and I think that is the key point. Really, it's the realization of overindulging that people need to be careful about.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, overindulgence is a weird one, because indulgence gives you it's like the dangling of the carrot. If you have no indulgence, if you have nothing to strive for, you're not going to work hard. But if you make that the only goal, then your life's a waste. So it's just like a lot of things in life. Everything has to be in moderation. You can't have too much indulgence, but you definitely have to have indulgence, because if there's no carrot in front of you to motivate you, you're not going to what's the point of it also depends on your situation though. If you lost your job, no, you shouldn't be indulging in crap. You got to get your shit done. But if you're making good money, or don't feel bad about taking a vacation, especially if you got
Right. I mean, I
PTO. Like,
was
it's there for the take. Don't just be like, oh, I got PTO, I should really be working, I got all this work to do. No,
yeah. I
they
mean,
pay you for
it's
time,
that.
take it off.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. It's a I think a level of maturity needs to come into to be able to juxtapose some of these terminologies in a responsible way. Because I mean, I was going to use a feminine word, like when we talk about indulgence, it's like pampering. If you give yourself a bit of pampering, um, because like you've earned it and you're time to treat yourself nicely and enjoy and indulge, then that can help boost your esteem to a degree. But if you go a little bit too far with it, now you're becoming a bit hedonistic. Now you're not really being responsible, you're being reckless.
Yes,
So
but you also have to look on the flip side. If you don't, and I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but if you don't breed into the hedonistic a little bit, what happens is you become a slave to your emotions. So, like, it's one of those, you can't, I like to say it as is it's like a river, okay? If you don't deal with your emotions, you're damming up that river. And then you basically become to the point where, like, the littlest thing is going to set you off, okay?
yeah. See, so wait,
And
hold
if
on, hold
you,
on.
okay,
Wait. Pause. Just wait. Pause. You hear that, everybody? He's just basically said what I was saying before, like bottling up your emotions, and it's going to come back and bite you. So be careful with this. Controlling your emotions, responsibility of your emotions is far better, more useful. Sorry, Bandit.
yep,
Please
and
continue.
that's what I'm getting at. If you treat it like a dam, you're literally,
Yeah.
it's going to explode, and then you're going to drown. Now, if you
Yeah.
always,
Yeah. I love it.
and if you are always indulging, you're literally the slave to the water. And what I mean by that is you're a slave to the current. So wherever the current takes you is where you're going. Hence why when people are slave to their emotions, they're very manipulative, because you can manipulate the crap out of them, because all you need to do is find what they are. I mean, I'm not trying to use people. I'm just saying in general, this is what you got to watch out for. If if you're a slave to sex, how do I control you? Control the way women just have to control sex, and they can just play you like a fiddle. So and that's what I mean by, like, if you are always going into your hedonistic indulgences, you're basically floating to the current. So whatever the current takes you, like, I'm using a water metaphor. That's
No,
where
it's a
you're.
wonderful. It's a great one.
That's where it's taking you. The emotions are just taking you on for a ride, and you have no control. Now, if you have temperance, which I've really been pressing for the last 6 months, is temperance, which means basically self-control. It's another word for self-control. If you have temperance on how it's like having a canoe and you're paddling, so you can paddle. If you paddle at the current, you have no control. But if everybody knows, if you go canoeing, the only way you have control is you have to paddle faster than the current. That's temperance. You're controlling your surroundings. You have control, because if I'm paddling faster than the current, I get to decide how to turn. The current's not telling me if I want to go left. I need to go faster than the current, which means I have
Fantastic.
to pass my indulgences. I need to control my indulgences and be better prepared to control them, to have control. That means I need to find a way to there's two options. It's either, if you're still using the water metaphor, it's like a kettle. You either let a little steam out so you can have some control, so you don't explode, or you channel that energy and use steam as a power source, like a steam locomotive. So that's comparison. The smart people take their rage and their indulgences and turn it into something productive. So if you lose control, like for me, when I get angry, this works for me, but it might not work. I pick up my bass and decide to play bass, and guess what? It calms me down. Then I can focus again. Give me 20 minutes. A lot of people, that when they're pissed off, they go take a walk, or they listen to music, or they.
Cutting out there.
Do you hear me now? Is that better?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So what I
I
was
think
basically
when
saying is
you have
it's pat. It's
kids,
oh.
like it makes you check a little bit.
All right. Let me give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna see if I can get a better
I think
connection.
you're okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna get my
But I
connection.
think we've got the gist of what you're saying. So the being attentive and appropriate, there's a time and place for when you can lose your cool, punch a pillow or something like that. Don't do that in front of the kids, sort of thing. Recognizing when is the appropriate time and proportionate amount when things are too much. Banner was talking about temperance. I was going to throw in a intent with that. It's one thing to have control and responsibility, but to what end, for what purpose, for what reason, and that's what the intent, why you're doing it, what do you hope to achieve out of it, and that can help define or align your sights so that you're not just paddling, using his analogy there with the water, you're not just canoeing in the dark, but you can actually see land or whatever it is, you see a destination.
And it's also like think of anger as a kettle. Okay, you can take that kettle and release that steam, but you still have all that bodily rage. And then the steam, causes problems, causes people getting burned. It causes pain. But it doesn't really do anything. But I can take that same steam, bottle it into a cylinder, and use that to move a locomotive and make steam power. So the thing is, you got to take your anger and turn it into something productive. And this is what I was saying before while my phone was cutting in and out. If you take this rage that you're feeling and bottle it into something that's productive, that's how you win at life. So like when I'm angry, instead of flipping out on someone that doesn't deserve it, I go and play my bass. That's what calms me down. Now, for everybody, it could be going for a walk, it could be reading a book, listening to music, but find that centering, calming. If you let your emotions control you, you're always going to be slave to your emotions, and you're going to get used, or you're going to burn relationships. That's what's going to happen.
Right. And it comes back to that balance part. And I think we also describe it here. This is kind of like, it's not just a self-control here, but this is kind of like getting to know yourself as well, be more familiar of your characteristics and your traits. And as such, this is what you're giving great self-mastery lessons here. Not introduction, what was the word, like a meeting of who you are. Introduction, yeah, is the right sort of word. You're introducing, you're becoming introduced to who you are. However, can we take this, because the stream is, in a way, you're kind of like discussing the next stage of self-actualizing. So in the beginning, I was talking about the stream, and there's a video before, we're talking to bringing this idea of like, hey, we've got to stop lying to ourselves. We need to be more honest. We need to not bury some of the things that need to be addressed. It's one thing to some extent, ignore the insignificant, that's not really going to make a difference, no one really cares, and it's not going to make any, but the stuff that really does matter, like you was talking about anger, to really face it and acknowledge it exists before we can then process it and modulate it or regulate it more appropriately. So that initial people living in fantasy land sort of stuff, and how do we
How do you
for
get rid of
those,
Fantasyland? It's
well, what, yes, but for
There's
those
only
who actually
one way
want
of
to,
doing that.
because some people don't want. Yeah,
You need to have someone you trust and basically be your accountability buddy in a sense. Because problem is you have no counteracting person against your ego. Okay? So for example, like if I will call my friend up and say, "Look, I got a big decision or something that's I've been thinking about for weeks." And look, he I tell him what it is, and he'd be like, "Stop overthinking this, just effing do it." Yes, and then he'll give me the, just do this, and that's all I need. And then, or he'll be like, "Yeah, you're coming at this angle. Come with a different angle." So what this person's
right,
doing for me is giving me perspective.
right.
Perspective is
But
the opposite of ego, in my opinion, because
however,
ego.
I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate this time. So,
Mhm.
what you're describing requires you to have a little, to some degree, some security about, you are able to trust yourself enough to trust someone else's judgment or opinion or
Yes.
whatever, right? Now,
Hmm.
what if you're so insecure that you don't trust yourself and you don't trust anyone else? But what you end up trusting, unfortunately, is someone who will facilitate you living in La La Land.
Well, that's see the problem is you put your you turned a positive trust into a negative, um we'll call it a negative, I'm trying to think of a good word for this, obsession. Okay, so for example, if you a good way of looking at it, like a way a cult works in a sense. I'm not saying anything's a cult, I'm just saying in general. A cult requires a couple things. It requires a charismatic leader, and it requires someone that is either in pain or easily controlled. Okay? So what you're describing right there is someone that's yearning for something that they're missing. Okay? And then they go, "Oh, this person's supplying that thing I'm missing in my life." It could be acceptance, it could be love, it could be purpose. There's a void in your life that you're
You,
missing. Okay?
you hear that, everybody?
And
Hold on a second, Bandit.
okay,
Sorry. You hear that
yeah.
because you weren't here earlier. I was covering cults earlier, and I was saying like false promises. See. So please continue, Bandit, because
The the thing
yeah,
is, this is where the thing called important, because most people need to be humble. Okay? Because you need to get that center. It's especially when you become more successful, where you only know this with age. The more successful you are as a person, the more people in your life need to hold you accountable, and the more you need to look in yourself in the mirror and knock that ego down. Because it's really easy if you
right.
have life going well for you to go, "You know what? My shit don't stink. Like, F this guy." And I lose complete perspective on a situation, and then I can become a total asshole. And then you become your
So
ego trip, and the thing is, once this is where this is the ironic thing of life. If if you become the asshole, you get controlled so easily. But if you become the person that is centered and has a purpose, people think that you don't have big ego. And why do they yell at you and make fun of you? Because they can't control you. So envy comes out in different ways. If they can't control you, they're going to shame you. So instead of looking at a situation as, why is this person being an asshole? I've always been nice to them. It's because they're envious of you, because you can't be controlled. Okay? So just think of
yeah,
you don't need to call this person out. Just remind yourself in the background of your head, "Oh, this is why they're doing this. Oh, I see this now." And then you can just
right.
smile. And why I'm telling you this is, most people, when they hear that situation, first emotion is either anger or rejection or questioning yourself. You need to stop doing those three things. You got to look at yourself going, oh, this person doesn't like me. But the only reason why I know this is because I have someone in my life that holds me accountable. If you do not
Right.
have an accountability person, it is I would argue it's damn near impossible to be level-headed because you're always going to allow your ego to go unchecked, and once your ego goes unchecked, it's bad news bears because you're going to get
Well,
used
yeah, I
somehow.
mean, this is one of the problems when people are so adamant of their monkhood. Maybe not monks per se, but I mean, because they'll still socialize. But they're like, I don't care about anyone's opinion. I'm so in my own head, and what I say goes. Is that you only see one side of things, so it's an imbalance.
That's when you get the cult thing, and like if you want to take that as your personal choice, completely fine with it. But you still need someone to go into you and say, look, if I went, for example, if I went completely monk mode and cut all ties with everybody, who's going to keep my ego in check? Who's going to challenge my
Right,
morals? Because
right.
basically you're a giant house of cards. All I have to do is poke
You
a
become an
couple cards, and
egomaniac
then
at that point.
your whole personality falls apart, and then you can get
Right.
controlled. And what I
I mean,
don't
it's kind of funny.
fear,
Right.
I don't fear, real quick, and I'll let you talk. I'm sorry. I just want to finish this real quick because if I don't, I'm gonna forget it. If you do not if you do not be challenged, you're not gonna grow as a person. Okay.
Oh,
And the
definitely. Yeah.
problem is, if you're not growing, you can be controlled, and that's what I fear. I don't care about being monk mode or whatever the case may be. I care about people getting used. That's why I don't like shady salesmen, all that stuff. I don't like people using other people, and that's my biggest fear with people that go monk mode is if they don't have someone to hold them accountable, they can be easily. It's it's a very small group of people that can walk away and still keep their ego in check. I'm not saying it's
It's a
impossible but for the majority of people, that's really hard to have
Well, it
for.
is a very precarious situation because it sets that person up for, like you're saying, because in their, I'm presuming a little bit here, but in their mind they sort of feel as if this is like the ultimate solution. Like, if I become a fortress, I can't be attacked. No one can get me because I'm so independent, I'm so isolated, I'm so whatever. But that in itself becomes their weakness in a way. um there's so many like
Well,
nuggets there. I want
humans
to sort of jump
are
little
social.
little tangent.
We're a social species. Like we're not solitary creatures. Like we have to be around other people.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
there are. I'm speaking in general terms here. Like I would say above 90% of people need to have social interaction. There are that 10% that are on the spectrum that can be alone, and that's fine. But you're not the normal. You're like when we're having these talks, I have to speak in general terms. Like everybody's an individual. Some people are not gonna follow this just because that's who they are, and that's fine. But speaking in general terms, majority of people cannot just go monk mode. Like they will go insane.
Right. I mean,
They
one of
will.
the sort of fallacies they'll say is like, "Oh, I don't need anybody. I'm a one man island." It's like, come on, like,
Well, the thing is,
okay,
you don't
that's you.
grow when you're on a one man island. Like I need to be challenged. I need to look at things in different perspectives because how am I going to learn? How am I going to grow? How am I going to reinforce my own principles and values if they're not challenged? Because then it's just a house of cards. And then what's scary, this is where suicide comes in because if if no one's challenging you and you have weak arguments and and then for example someone challenges you and then you have that, I like to call it the existential moment where, oh my god, you're challenging me on this, so if you challenge me on this, maybe that's wrong, and if that's wrong, then my whole life's wrong, and if my whole life's wrong, there's no meaning in life, and now I end up killing myself. This is how we get there mentally. So if you aren't constantly being challenged and reinforcing your arguments and looking at different perspectives,
you run the risk where you're going to put your ego is going to equal what your movement is. And if someone destroys your movement, they destroy your ego. They destroy your ego, they destroy your purpose. If they destroy your purpose, you destroy your meaning. If you destroy your meaning, you destroy your life. Right?
That's an interesting
This is
point
where
you're bringing up as well.
this is
Because
why you should never fully look at movements. You should look at things that everything should be based off of core principles, not what the movement stands for, but what the principle is, and always question that. So maybe today, maybe 20 years from now, that this makes sense for me, but maybe I might outgrow it, or maybe I got a different perspective on things, and then, my values change. Like, I don't have the same values when I was 9 years old. I want to be a fireman when I was 9. Like
yeah,
that's
like
gonna happen with me. Like,
I mean,
so like life changes when you're a little
sure, we
kid
could
and
call
then
this
when
like
you're adult.
refinement, like a refinement, you know.
Yes. So
Now you
it's
brought up an
important to
interesting.
understand that you might being a loner might help you for what you're going through, and that's completely fine. I'm never going to tell you that's the wrong approach. I'm always saying you have to have your guard up. Understand the the pros and cons of any situation. If you're monk mode, you have these weaknesses. You have these pros. We always talk about the pros, but there are some shortcomings to that. Like, no one's protecting your ego. No one's no one's allowing you to radicalize. Like, there's different things you need to be aware of, and just put a mental stop thinking, okay, this could happen, so I had to protect myself from this, because everything is not 100% positive thing. There's always going to be pros and cons. There's always going to be opportunity costs. What am I giving up? What is this going to cost me? So if you look at situations as not black and white, but more gray, life starts making a lot more sense.
Well, that's a good another. You've got so many gems, so many little moments where it's like, oh, I could springboard off into another kind of area. But yeah, fantastic stuff you're contributing here. But yeah, like black and white thinking, and I think that's something we need to be mindful of. Like you say, like there is more nuance, more gray. This is why discernment is such an important. And you can only really have discernment when there's a level of maturity with it. You know, you can't expect children to have discernment. You know, so there needs to be some like experience behind there and some maturation,
because it's a value structure too. So think about this: when you're in an idealistic, we'll just say you graduated high school, you think you can conquer the world. You think, I'm the 18, I can rule the world. I have all my life to live in front of me. Like, F these old people they're trying to give me wisdom, because I can handle my shit. I'm hot shit. I got a new job. I'm making, $20,000 a year. I'm making good money and all this other crap. However, if you don't follow other people's wisdom, you're going to make the same mistakes. Now, sometimes you might be that kind of person where the only way you're ever going to learn is, you got to touch a fire to know it's hot. Some people are like that way. Some people are risk averse, where they'll use wisdom, and then they'll only do what people tell them to do, which is not good. And on the flip side, so you got to be somewhere in the middle. You have to understand when touching fire is hot is not something to do, and maybe I should listen to someone telling me that burner's hot. And there's other times where it's like, I need to experience life, and I can't just have someone tell me what to do all the time. So there's always nuance, and wisdom is, in my understanding and the way I like to put it, things, nuance is wisdom. Knowing when to do something and when not to do something, when to know when to take advice and not take advice. That's wisdom. Temperance is wisdom.
Now
doing an extreme is not wisdom. That's just dealing with an emotion.
Well, yeah, I mean, black and white and extreme ways of looking at things is very simplistic. I mean, it's kind of like a lazy way of reaching a verdict. I think on one hand, this is perhaps why younger people make mistakes, because it, first of all, it shortcuts, makes things simple for them. But they, like you're talking about being humble, that being humble is kind of like the reality check or the accountability buddy. And if they haven't experienced being humbled enough, then they're going to have a high level of arrogance. And it's not until later on in life have they been, until reality has kind of kicked them in the backside a few times, do they start to realize that they're not as hot as they think they are.
But you're nailing the problem, but you're so close. How did we get here? Because this is where education has failed us as a society. Because there is no reason why, as a culture, as a race, whatever you want to look at it as, why we have to only the only way we learn is through experience. That's like it should be taught like when to take advice and when not to take advice. Like I know this sounds stupid and very trivial, but it's important because knowing when to follow someone's advice saves you time, saves you money, saves you bad experiences, and you can learn from them. We're never taught that. We're always taught it, at least in America. I'm speaking it as American. I'm not speaking as, but we're always taught, you know what, do what feels good. Don't listen to advice. Just do what you feel is right. F the future. Like all this hedonistic ends, and then guess what? Then you make one bad decision, and you're done. And this is what I like when Kush and I talk about our financial streams. I'm just wrapping everything together. Like it only really takes 4 or 5 really bad decisions to mess up your life. That's how on the cusp most people are. Even rich people, they make 4 or 5 really bad decisions. You're poor. You make some dumbass decision. It life is really not forgiving at all. People think it's forgiving, but it really is not.
I think
And people
with
that are poor understand this. People that are rich do not. If poor, and when I mean by poor, I don't mean financial poor. I mean there's a lot of ways we can go over what poor is. Poor could be poor health. It could be poor ways of looking at life. I mean, there's a lot of different ways we can look at poor. I'm using poor as a general term. If you
sure.
if you look at it's not hard to go down a bad path. The question we don't talk about is how did we get here? And how do we prevent this from happening? Now, this whole prevent from happening thing, the only way to do that is to pass this knowledge down. So if you're not willing to listen to this information, you're going to repeat the same stupid stuff.
I
Why do you think
think
20-year-olds make bad
to
decisions and then those bad decisions take
yeah.
30 years to recover? And by that time, you're going to retire and then your life's ruined when you should have listened to
However,
advice.
I think to help bolster that though,
Hmm.
because you can give someone the cheat code or the blueprint and be like, right here, follow this, and there'll be no problems. And yet
Hmm.
somehow there was they ran into an error, which kind of I think what will help mitigate those happening is the ability to take experience and lessons and have this skill of adaptation. Because just because someone might give you the cheat code doesn't necessarily it's going to work in every situation. Like you might have a past experience or something and think, well, if that happens again, I know what to do. Not quite true, because
Hmm.
that new encounter, even though it might be very similar, might not be exactly the same thing. So using previous experience as a guide, yes, but as a direct correlation could end up backfiring.
Yes,
So I think
and
if you can
that's where we get
adapt,
back to the middle of our
like rolling with the
topic.
punches.
Yeah, but that's where we get back to the topic. You can't be in the extremes. You have to be somewhere in the middle. And that's where that's the whole point where I'm trying to get at. We're always it seems like we're always going into the outliers. We're always going to either like if you want to look at it like 0 and 100, we're always either living in the 0 to 10 range or the 90 to the 100. We're not living in that 20 to 80 range. That's where life is good. Life is never good at the extremes. Being too rich or being too poor in something, it's never a good thing because most of the time there's shortcomings with either being too rich, too poor, your attitudes change. Like I said, there's always a cost to things. Temperance is the way to go. Being somewhere in the middle, like I hate to use the word average because it's a poor way of saying this, but being in the middle of stuff gives you perspective. And a lot of
to
people
throw
today lack perspective. And
Well, I think
perspective gives you
also
meaning, and it makes you enjoy what you have. If, for example,
right,
if I was a rich person and I got, caviar every single day, I mean, I don't like caviar, but I'm just using an example. Caviar is expensive, but it's a luxury item. If I have it every day, I'm not gonna enjoy it
uh,
every day. Now, if I
yeah,
have caviar once a year on a special occasion, I get to enjoy that. So, and if I can't afford caviar, I'm envious of people that have caviar, so I steal their caviar.
do you
So
think
see where I'm getting at? Where being
yeah, you're not yeah, yeah.
being the
Think
extremes, being poor and not and being envious is a horrible thing, but being rich and indulgent and not basically turning everything in life mundanely because I have the money and I don't get to enjoy things, where I overindulge something and I take something that's beautiful and just turn it into it's okay. That's
yeah.
shitty too.
No,
We need to be somewhere in
no,
the middle where I can go in and enjoy caviar once a month in this scenario and say, hey, this tastes great. I mean, I think it tastes too salty, but hey, this tastes great. Instead of buying this every single day, I'm going to have it every so often so I get to enjoy it. And that's where self-control comes in. This is where it's easier to blame someone for being rich, and it's easier to be um call a poor person, yeah, they lack work ethic. Both of them are bullshit. What it comes down to is being in the middle and understanding, hey, your struggles are
yeah.
real. I get that. And being too rich, yeah, it's great to have money, but you need to put things in perspective, and you need to stop being hedonistic.
I mean,
So
I
you need
totally
to see
totally
both,
agree with
and
you. Like
you need to
the
be,
middle. Sorry.
yeah. What I was getting at is you need to be somewhere in the middle, and the problem is on both extremes. That's how people get controlled. Like if you're poor, how do I control you? I throw you a couple bucks, and then now I own your ass. If you're too rich, how do I control you? I figure out what you're spending your money on and use that to control you. Now, if I'm in the middle, this is where society comes in. If I'm in the middle and I enjoy the richer things in life, but I won't do it all the time, so I can't be controlled by it, but yet I have the means to not be poor, to be controlled by money, I'm uncontrollable. Literally uncontrollable. You can't use wealth to control me, and you can't use poor to control me. I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
It affords you the sort of
is my life going
flexibility.
to be as great as a rich person? No, but am I going to have half the problems a rich person has? Hell no. And
Well,
that's where people need to understand, like, it is not terrible to be average. I hate people that think that being average is the worst
that's
thing.
what
No,
I was
average
gonna
gives you
lead into.
yeah, average gives you so much more than being super great at something, because if you're super great at something, you're going to be shitty in something else. Like
Right.
it's
Yeah.
better
It's a
to be a
balance
jack
again.
of all trades
The
than
compromise. Yeah.
yeah, it's better to be a
Yeah.
jack of all trades than a um great at one thing, to be
I
a
mean,
master at one.
being
Because
in the
guess what?
middle.
Yeah, you're gonna be bored of being the great at one thing. Like if you play video games all the time and you're great at one level, and I can kick everybody's ass at Super Smash Brothers, but then I can't play Donkey Kong for the life of me. Like what does that make me? It makes me, but if I play all video games, do I get bored? No, because I play a different video game all the time. Am I great at all those video games? No, but I'm competent at it. Do I get more pleasure out of playing multiple different games and playing the same game over and over again because it's losing its luster? That's what it's like to be rich. I
Right.
mean, to
Yeah.
be
And
honest, being rich is
meaning gets lost as
playing the
well.
same video game over and over and over again, and then saying, "Hey, it's great to play this video game. It's a bad, I can't afford a PlayStation 5, but am I bored of it because I lose its luster?" That's what being rich is like. Being poor would be envious of the person playing that video game that I'm bored about. Okay. And being the average person, I'm playing multiple different video games. I might not be great at all of them, but I'm not bored of them either because I'm playing a different game every week.
Sure.
So
And when
what is the best scenario then? If we're using extremes, is it better to be poor and be envious of someone else? That's not a great trait. Is it great to be rich and everything I touch is I'm a apathy I'm apathy about it. Like I don't care. I have no because I'm bored of it. I played the same video game all the time. It's not fun anymore. It's just I'm just going through the paces. That's not a good life. But if I get to appreciate what I have, that is the best balance. And that's what I'm trying to talk about for the most part is being balanced.
right, and being in the middle balance, I think, gives you the flexibility as well, because there might be times when you do like dial it up a bit and you become much more successful, a period of time where you're, a hot shot. And likewise, you can kind of like dial it down. Well, not necessarily intentionally dial it down, but life can kick you in the balls or whatever, and you can
Hmm.
experience the highs and lows. Because when you're at the polar opposites, also, um, your worldview or whatever is very narrow. I don't think the polar opposites can really see each other for what they truly are because they're so extreme in the way they look at things. But in the middle, you can kind of see both directions. You've got the flexibility, and like you say, it's hard to control you because you've got space, you've got wiggle room to maneuver around.
Yes, but
Because the hot shot, there's nowhere for them to go other
yeah,
than
but
down.
let's talk about this. You're missing one huge thing. The rich hate the poor hate the rich. And guess what the middle is? No one gives a shit.
Well, I was going to
So
ask you,
everybody talks about like, I want to ghost in plain sight. I want to just do what I want to be. I want to be left alone. How many times do we hear on channels? I just want to be freaking left alone. How do you be left alone? I people, I just want to do what I want and be left alone. I hear that all the time. How do you do that? Be in the middle. Ghost in plain
be the
sight.
gray
Do what
man.
you that's how you live a good life. And the
I was
thing is
gonna.
you'll appreciate what you have a hell of a lot more. You might not have a mansion, but guess what? Do you have four walls and a roof over your head? This is where
Right.
perspective comes
Now,
in. Like,
what I'm wondering, Bandit, what I'm wondering, right,
mhm,
is for those who have that kind of ability to balance themselves out, and
mhm.
as such, I suspect they have a higher chance of. I don't want to say make it sound like chance, but they can do the inner work. They're more willing to do the inner work. They're more open to new ideas and questioning and things like that. Great. But do you think that's a small percentage compared? Because I don't know if I'm noticing the idea I'm going to put in front of you is: do you think people, the majority of people, are a bit petulant in the sense that they look at the average as mediocre? Like they
No.
find it they're not enough. It's not they're discontent. They can't be content with just average.
But who is saying that? The rich people are envious of the average because they are living such mundane lives because everything to them is blah because they experience richness all the time. It's like, okay, for example, if you're going to fancy vacations every single month, when you go on a vacation to a fancy to the beach, is it rewarding? Yeah, but you're not getting the same output if I went to a vacation once a month or once a year. If I went
Tell
to
you what,
a nice
I
beach
haven't been on a
vacation
vacation
once
for a
a
long.
year.
My mind is going to be blown away when I go on vacation next.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at is you're going to appreciate that
Yeah.
vacation a hell of a
Oh
lot
yeah.
more if you go to that vacation once a year compared to every single month. And if you
Oh
never go
yeah.
on a
Definitely.
vacation, you're going to be envious of both people. Okay. So so looking at people in general, if someone is it all comes down to envy. I envy
So do you
as a
think?
someone that indulges something too much. I envy the feeling of enjoying something for what it is. That's the rich person's dilemma. The poor person's agenda is um they can't enjoy something because they can't afford it or
So
they
would
feel
you
like they
say
can't afford
would
it.
this be a fair sort of
And I don't mean money
assessment?
here. I'm saying poor as just the general term lacking of something, not financial.
Right. Yeah. So would this be a fair? So do you think the people who are in the middle, the
Mhm.
average kind of people, do you think that that's the most not necessarily like vulnerable, but they're the opportune target for the extreme ends, for the poor people and the rich people, because they try to pull from the middle group,
Because
like join us, be one of us. You know, don't you want to be rich
well, the
like
thing
me?
is, there's
You know?
more. There's more people in the middle, and when you realize you're in the middle, you look at the extremes and go, "No, I don't want to be part of you. No, I don't want to be part of you." Okay? Because the thing is, if you're in the middle, you can't be controlled. If you're in the extremes, you can be controlled. So where's society want us? In the extremes. We want you really
But do
rich
you
or really poor.
do you think
Because
that people in the middle have enough self-awareness to know that they're in the middle? Because if they're
there's
if we're talking like mental health wise, and they're all disorientated, they don't know who they are, they're like what's going on around them, and all this, they're being pulled in all sorts of directions. Because one of the things in
they do
narcissistic abuse,
subconsciously, and I can prove it. Okay,
subconsciously, right?
and this
Okay,
is how you can prove it. Because what is the middle? It is equilibrium. It is balance. So just like everything, to be in the middle, you need to have checks and balances. So you need to have that friend, like I was talking, to wrap everything back in one. You need that friend to say you're being a bitch, but at the same time tell you, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. That was a good call by you. You need that person to be accountable. You need to have that person to keep you in check. Just like everything in your life needs to have checks and balances.
right.
Okay,
In
if
some
you
ways, would you say like the people in the middle are actually more wealthy, because they got the I don't want to say luxury, but they got the riches of balance. Like, is that not
yes, why?
really a higher value than
What do you
actually
think that?
being,
This
you
is
know?
my
And that's
interpretation. I could be wrong, but the way I interpret the Bible is that when they say the meek shall inherit the earth, this is what I'm talking about. The meek shall inherit the earth. It's not the uber wealthy, it's not the uber poor. It's the people with content. And how
content.
does someone get
Yes.
content? They live in the middle.
Right, right. I mean, come on, that's like gold, isn't it? Like, imagine that, because that is such for that person, it is a prized possession. But for people who don't have contentment, it is it is offensive to them. They
It's not
hate you for
offensive.
for
It's they hate you, but you're looking at the wrong way. It's not hatred it's envy. I'm
yeah, they hate you because they want it for themselves.
because they can't have it
They
because
can't have it,
they're
right?
so jaded by the indulgences of their life. Like
Right, right.
for example, if I take a shower, okay, prime example, if I don't have the ability to take a shower, yeah, I'm gonna be envious of people taking showers. That's the the rich person is if I'm taking a shower and I'm covered in water and I'm always in water, I can't get out of water because I'm surrounded by water. There's water everywhere. I'm fighting to just survive in water, like water world. You're gonna be you're gonna be pissed too, because then you're just used to water all the time. But if I take a shower once a day and feel clean, I'm not thinking about the rich. I'm not thinking about the poor. I'm just thinking about, hey, I need to take a shower. Okay. So I'm using the item the way it's supposed to be used. I'm not indulging it. I'm not overindulging it. I'm not underindulging it. I'm just using it for its purpose. And then I can also enjoy the beauty of taking a shower. Like I don't have to go in and say this is mundane. It's something I do every day. But it's like the miracle. It's like the people that have that childhood innocence where they can go in and they, and appreciate the small things for what they are. Like, oh, like going out for another way of looking at this is like going to nature. You go look at an inchworm. Now you could just if you have the mindset of I've seen all this great things in life, and an inchworm is just it's a little insect who gives a shit. But then you can look at the inchworm crawling on that leaf and go, wow, he's fighting gravity. He's reaching up. He's eating. He's going to be a bigger inchworm, and just appreciating life for what it is. That's the middle. And the poor person goes, I never seen an inchworm in my life. What the hell's an inchworm? Okay.
I've never seen an
Who has the
inchworm, but
best
now
perspective of
if I see
life?
one,
Yeah, but I'm saying who has the best perspective of life? They're enjoying what
oh
things
sure,
are,
yeah.
not what things are supposed to be.
Well, and
That's
yeah,
the
and it's also the allocation of energy, because we'll be covering it in a future video about perception, and with that, there's so much data, information that we filter out. Otherwise, would our brains would explode. So, as a sort of, I don't know if this is a tangent, but if you're stuck in trauma, if you're stuck in emotions, if you're so stuck wrapped up in your own emotions, you won't notice the inchworm at all. But if you can
yes, and that would
quell,
be the
if
poor
you, yeah,
perspective.
right, and but if you can,
But if the rich perspective
if,
would be you're so self-involved that you don't even notice the inchworm. And then the person in the middle would be the person that's going on a hike and being this is the thing. It's not about knowing where it's not about seeing the inchworm, it's giving yourself the opportunity to see an inchworm and not have to worry about, oh my God, I have to, it's getting dark out. I'm scared of the dark. I need to go away. No, I'm going to look at nature, and the opportunity of seeing an inchworm happens. I'm going to take it and I'm going to look for an inchworm. And if I see it, it's great. But if I don't see it,
right,
it's not a loss. But if I do see
it,
something miraculous, and then the last step that no one put, and if you want to put everything in perspective, this is the self-actualization part. Looking at nature and going, look at the beauty of this. It might be mundane just seeing an inchworm crawling up on a leaf, but if you go, wow, this is pretty awesome, just because of how beauty just this occurrence is and how he's actually going and moving, how this one little insect is surviving on its own and has the ability, and how great and small nature is, and having these discussions in your head going, wow, I'm having an existential moment right now. If you didn't put yourself into that moment and didn't give yourself the opportunity to look at perspective and vulnerable, that's where this is where I think people are losing perspective on. You're not putting yourself in the ability to be a child again. Look at things in a child's lens.
sure,
Giving yourself the ability to be hurt in another perspective, because being vulnerable is not, if done correctly, being vulnerable is not a weakness, it's a strength. Because in order for you to be vulnerable, you are giving an olive branch. Now, some people can take that olive branch and make and get peace, and other people can take that olive branch and snap it in two. This is life, okay? However, if you become jaded, guess what happens? You're never going to give an olive branch. You're never going to grow. You're just going to be who you are. Now, if I take the other extreme, and say I'm going to keep offering olive branches and just be a glutton for punishment, that's not healthy too. This is where discernment and wisdom come along. And this is where I another way of looking at it. You cannot be wise and be in the middle. Middle requires a lot more wisdom than to be uber rich or uber poor, because I need to use discernment. And I also need to give the opportunity of being self-actualized. And that's how you become that, because I can't be self-actualized and be uber rich, because my indulgences it's going to make me hedonistic. And I'm poor, I'm never going to have the opportunity to be self-actualized, because I have to worry about surviving. Now, the only way you can do it is being in the middle and accepting who you are. And this is where being in the middle is all about. You need to accept who you are. You're going to have shortcomings, just like this is where the balance comes in. You need to understand your shortcomings and what you're good at, what you're bad at. I can't do that if everybody in my life is telling me I'm hot shit, I'm the best at ever. I do nothing wrong. That's the rich mentality. The poor mentality would be, you can't do shit. You're a piece of shit. Now, and then someone in the middle would be like, I do some things great, do some things bad. I can work on X, but some things I can't work on. Like I can't change my height. I just bring this up all the time. I can't
Yeah.
change my height.
That's,
Am I going to dwell on being short? Hell no. It's who I am. I've accepted it. I moved on. But acceptance also means that if someone calls me, you know, you're a midget, or I'm not a midget, but I'm just saying you call me, it rolls off me because I already accepted it. I can't be
um,
controlled now by your language. It doesn't make me go into a rage. It doesn't get me because I accept who I am. And this is where being in this is I'll call it middle mentality. Like you're not,
right.
you accept who you are, so you can't be controlled. Hence what I've been talking about.
So earlier in the stream, I was talking about this idea of having this inner voice. Well, two of them really, and I kind of shorthanded it by saying kind of like the angel and the demon, even though it's being a bit facetious. But the angel is trying to tell you what you need to be doing, and obviously the demon is like pulling you with your compulsions and your trauma and addictions, is making you do things that you regret. And it's a little bit, it kind of ties in with what you're saying here. So as a correction to what I was saying is, yes, where are you? Like if you got an angel on one shoulder and the demon on the other, where are you? Well, you're in the middle. But for that person, they don't see themselves in the middle. They're being pulled either side. And this is what cognitive dissonance is, having two opposing opinions and listening to both at the same time.
But what is the middle? It's a little bit of demon and it's a little bit of angel. But guess what? You are making the decisions and you are in control of your life if you're in the middle. So if you're using the allegory, what you're talking about, all lumping everything together, if you're in the middle, you are making your own destiny. If I'm talking to the devil, the hedonistic end, I'm basically a slave to the devil. If I'm talking about make it to the angel, well, the angel is going to make me take the safe route, so I can't experience life. So that's what I'm giving up by taking. But another way of looking at it is the angel is the safe route, the demon is the unsafe route, and then the middle is the path that I make.
Yeah, and I would add to that, because when we, especially like if you're talking like cognitive dissonance, where the point that made at the end is that both sides are actually untrue. They're both like the extreme polar opposites of what we're saying, like the rich and the poor. They're both actually untrue, and what's in the middle is the balanced, realistic perspective. So it further supports
what do they
you're
call
saying.
that? What do they call that? It's two words. It's called the silent majority. Why they call it the silent majority? One, they can't be controlled. And two, they decide elections. So it's bullshit on the one side, bullshit on the other side. But who has all the power? The person that does the 9 to 5 job. That's the person that has all the power.
Right. And I
The
think
rich people can't swing. The rich people can't swing elections. The poor people can't swing elections. But the people in the middle, the average Joe, those are the ones that are making the choices. And guess what? Who are the ones that are? Who are the talking heads talking to? The extremely rich and the extremely poor. They don't give a shit about the middle.
So for the individual person that's having this imbalance, this mental issues and things like that. So what are we saying here then? Are we saying that who they should really be listening to is that silent majority within themselves that is centered?
What I would say to be centered, you need to look at everything as a balance. So this requires, some people can look themselves, and I would say the people that are very, very hard on themselves, they can look at themselves in the mirror and have an honest conversation. Not everybody can do that. This is where your shortcomings as an individual, you need to understand your shortcomings. Like if you know you have ego issues, you need an accountability buddy more than anybody else. If you have no self-esteem, you need an accountability person to bring you up. So you need to have an outside force that has your best interest at heart to help you out. This is why family is important. And I consider best friends as family, okay? You need to have that close person in your life to give you perspective, because it's very, very hard and I'm saying the average person, it's damn near impossible to have perspective. Perspective is something that you have to be told or shown. It's really hard to have self perspective, because we have a thing called ego, and ego's a bitch. Okay, so
You should have a
the
policy
only
like
way to
ego at
have
the door.
perspective is to live a life of balance. And I would add another thing. Understand life has balance and everything has a purpose, and to look at life through innocence. Okay? Like think about when you're a kid, when you first experienced whatever emotion. You saw your favorite animal, you got your first kiss. Those are burned into your head, okay? Your first family pet, all that kind of stuff. All those first experiences are burned in your head, and for good reason, because you were happy. It's bringing you back to times better. And then as you get older, you realize I'm transitioning from life of giving to life of taking. Okay? So I get older, people die, we go through the seasons. We go from spring, where everything's being born, to now we're going into looking at life as seasons. Now we're entering fall as we go through spring, then we go through summer, which that becomes our happy time. Then we go into fall, where we're it's getting older in life, we're starting to retire, and then we get our sunsetting years after retirement, and that would be our winter. Now, everybody loves the beginning of a story. Everybody loves the conclusion of a story, but where's the meat of a story? It's in the frickin' middle, okay? And in the middle of life, when you start doing the transition period of going from life of giving to life of taking, where life takes more from you than it gives to you, you need to put things in perspective. And the only way to put things in perspective without losing your shit is you need to have people to say, look, life's not this bad. You're just going through a bad spell. You need that self-esteem to bring you up. The other person knows you well enough that they're going to give you what you need to get you out of that situation. Sometimes it might be a kick in the ass. Sometimes it might be love.
Sometimes
it might be a shoulder to cry on. It might be a punch in the face. It might be, tough love. It might be
emotional
sleeping on the couch for the next month because you have nowhere to sleep.
Yeah.
So this is where friendship is underrated, and this is where a lack of these things, to bring back to the cult idea, the lack of all this stuff has a big burning hole in your life, and that hole is filled by someone that would manipulate you. Now, that could be someone that wants to manipulate you for their purposes, which is majority of the time, or someone to use you in a sense of, if you're going to use comparison for the dating life, would be like the dating roaches are using people that are basically on the poorer end, on the poor end of what we're talking about. They don't have indulgences, so they're looking up for a false mentor or a false prophet that's going to give them, they're going to give me that girlfriend experience. But really, it's just selling you a product that you're just getting used on. Now, if you had your best friend and your best friend was saying, look, if you got yourself a better haircut, let's go to the mall and get you a better set of clothes, and my friend's got a new best friend, and she seems to be your type. Maybe we should go on a double date. See how that opportunity happened? Because I was friend and I had someone looking out for me.
Right.
That's the other thing. You need to understand, not everything in life is about getting what you want now. I think if more people looked at the road traveled to get you to somewhere, this is where appreciating life for what it is so freaking important. So if you understand perspective in the sense that looking at nature and looking into the beauty of nature and its childhood eyes, it's going to, if done correctly, will bring a tear to your eye. Even if you have a cold, dead heart, it's going to bring joy to your life. If, if, if you don't have perspective, now there's a risk of ego coming in here, so we got to put things in balance. But if you look in life and say, hey, I went from, being working at a grocery store and now I'm working at a financial institution. Oh my God, like this road's crazy. Like I can't, all the pits and stops and all the leaps and bounds, all the people I met on the way. This is what life is. You need to recognize these facts, not the start point and the end point. You gotta look at the chunk of the middle of the book. Most people look at, okay, where I was and where I want to be. No one cares about how the I don't care about the ending and the starting and ending locations. It's the path that's
Yeah,
important.
everyone's in a
This
bit of a rush to get to the end.
Yes. The Why is everybody rushing to die? Because that's I don't
And
understand
then when
this
they get to the
perspective.
end, they
They want to get
regret
to
they
the end,
didn't
and when
spend
everybody
time.
gets everything that they want, they normally die or something bad
Yeah,
happens. It's
but
it's
like,
about appreciating life for what it is. And when you start
right,
appreciating things, this is the self-actualization. When you appreciate life for what it is, it's literally a game changer. I cannot stress this for most people. If you put things in perspective and look at the life you traveled, the things that you did, and have and understanding yourself, like I have four roofs over my head. Majority there's significant parts of this planet that do not have a house overhead. I should be appreciated. Is it a mansion? No. Is it a house? Yes. I should be appreciative of that fact and not be envious of what other people have. Then I'm happy. I'm content. And that's the whole thing. What do we lack in society right now? Content. I It's all about I need to strive more. I need more items. I need more fluff. I need more extremities. It's like no.
yeah,
I
people
need
become
I need to
insatiable.
work. I need to appreciate what I have. And then when I do these special things with my friends, I can appreciate the moment and it's deeper
Right,
than
and that's another.
like if I like fishing. So if I go on a fishing trip with my friends, okay, or family, I'm having a great time. If I went on a fishing trip all the freaking time, I wouldn't appreciate it as much. And
Right,
I purposely do not go fishing all the time because if I did, it would lose its luster. And if it loses its luster, I'd be bored of it, and then it would go from a pleasure to a chore. And this is what you have to understand with balance. If you take something that you love and do it all the time, it becomes a chore. It doesn't become a
I think what makes it tricky for people to balance is because being content also implies being present in the moment. Now, if you're too busy looking into the future or reminiscing on your past, you're not even in the present time. So
Mhm.
it's not really possible to be content. But wait,
And this
before
is
you,
what Kush said this perfectly. I recommend anyone travel to a third world country. You'll realize you'll never lived a bad day in your entire life. This is perspective. This is balance.
yeah,
Per-
one
Everybody,
quick
yeah, go ahead.
point because you mentioned something, and
Hmm.
I think it's an important tip to give to people. Two things that join together. You mentioned about the seasons, and in terms of emotional literacy,
Hmm.
the way we look at our emotions as we need to understand that they're phases. So just because you feel sad now doesn't mean it's going to be sad forever. So understand that there's ups and downs, they come and go, right?
Hmm.
So with the phases of emotions, and then you're talking about cults taking or predators, and you mentioned opportunity, but yeah, so they're opportunists,
Hmm.
and they're looking for those moments in your phases to grab you, to get you. So if you are more observant or aware of or understanding that how your emotions are phases, you could be on your guard in a way. You could realize that you're at a transition where you're vulnerable to to being predated on.
But vulnerability is also, it also requires wisdom. Okay, being
Right, I
vulnerable
mean, I
for
don't
the
mean the
sake of being
yeah, I mean,
like I'm using this comparison. If you're early in your life and you're a 19-year-old, you should be cautious because you don't know who you should trust. You
maybe
should have
cautious
a
would have been a
you
better
should have a
word to
very
use.
high level of caution because you don't know who to trust because you don't have the experience. Now, if I'm a 60-year-old, on the flip side, if I'm a 60-year-old and I'm just um, dictating the way I'm supposed to do things and you're doing what I'm told all the time, you're being a dictator. You're not really passing your wisdom down. You're basically being a tyrant. Both of them are bad, but if you understand in time that I need to use my wisdom to discern what I should do, that's where your equilibrium. So understand this is why you need to have people outside your life to give you balance, because I might be great at X, Y, and Z, but A, B, and C I'm shitty at. So I need to recognize what I'm shortcomings are so I can be on guard. Like this is where like mentorship comes in, because if you go in and I'm great at one thing and you're great at another thing, guess what? We can bounce ideas off of. You can hold me in check, I'll hold you in check, and we'll both grow and learn together. Now that requires leap of faith. It requires trust. It requires other things, but you have to understand that you have to keep self-evaluating the situation. This is where people get hurt. People would say, "Oh, I trust this person. You know, my job of vetting them is done." No, you always vet them. I mean, like people people always change. Okay, the only thing that's constant in this world is change. So you need to always vet people. Like you always have to have some kind of guard up. But at the same time, you also have to be able to trust people. So here's the this is where balance comes in, and only balance works with discernment. Because if you have no discernment, this is impossible. I can't talk to you about this. If you like discernment, it's game over. You're either going to be really rich or really poor, and either way, you're still going to be poor. You could be poor, poor. What I mean by that is you're going to have you're not going to live life to the fullest because you're going to have no perspective on things. And if and Kush brought this point up, and I just want to say, like, if you how a lot of people are going to ask, well, how do I get myself back into the middle? Well, if you're a really rich person and you're lacking perspective, go to a poor country and live with them for a couple days and understand what their tribulations are going through. Understand through experience. Understand through, and don't talk down to them. Like come to them on their terms. Let them dictate to you their experiences and learn through them. And then on the flip side, if you're poor, talk to someone that's rich, or in another way of looking at it, something that you want or something that you recognize you're lacking and they have. Ask them how they got there, and then you can learn from their experience and get you to the middle. Okay, so you can go back and be in more of a balanced life. It's just a matter of work. Do you want to put the work in? It is always possible. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of
definitely.
recognizing it. And you need that balance. And another way of looking at balance is you need to have always someone keeping your ego in check, someone that holds you accountable, especially as the way society is, because society is designed today to make you not accountable. Today's
Well, I was
society is
going to
making
say
to
about
make you heat
the
all these
kids.
horrible aspects of human experience. That's what society is getting us to be. So how do we protect ourselves from these negative aspects that life is trying to push us to be into? You need to put everything in checks and balances. You need someone
Right,
to either
and
hold you accountable, hold them accountable. If you know you have a weakness, understand your shortcomings. If you have a problem with a casino and you gamble a lot, maybe goes to a casino is probably a good option. You know what I mean?
Right,
They're
and
they're recognizing your shortcomings. And what the great thing about recognizing your shortcomings are, you can grow as a person. You can't if 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 I'm working at if I make a lot of money and I just live at the casino and that's my life experience, I'm just going to deal with either looking at people and saying either, wow, look at all these money ballers. They're coming in and just throwing money. People are hedonistic. Or look at all these poor bastards. They're throwing their lives away. They're always depressed. When really that they're only looking at life in this little wedge of what the human experience is, and but they always view life through this lens. So it's like getting a pair of you have shitty you have shitty sight, and you're looking through your eyes going, I everything's blurry. I only see this part of the spectrum. But and a poor person would be like, I don't even freaking have eyes. I don't even recognize
I
what this
don't need
looks like.
glasses. Yeah.
And then the middle would be I have glasses, and I can see that life is not so bad. Some people live rich lives, people live poor lives. And then guess what? Those are the people that can experience life. And for example, if you're living in echo groups, you're that person that lives and dies at the casino. So you see the shitty aspects of life, the shitty aspects of how people are treated. You see these whores dressing up, trying to get money out of people because they have money and they finesse them. You see the hedonistic avenue of like, wow, life's terrible. Okay. Then you also see the flip side. You could be like a church-going, God-fearing person. And it doesn't take any risks and ends up being, you might be pious, but you haven't experienced life. And then in the middle of the road is, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just looking at polar opposites. But the people that, go to the casino every so often, go to church and have a full perspective of life, they get to experience everything. Who lives more of a overall better life? The people that go to church and the people that go to the casino, but only indulge these things with the understanding that I could go down this dark path. So when I go to the casino, I'm only going to put $100 in my pocket. So this is where the balance comes in. I
don't know. I feel like I need to preface because
Mhm.
I don't know if I mentioned it at the start. Like this, what we're talking about in this whole kind of conversation is for those people who want it. Like the ones who maybe are discontent and they're trying to find a change, or they've been thinking like something doesn't fit right and they need answers, or they're not happy with life. I mean, because for those who aren't interested, so be it kind of thing, like you do you sort of thing. So that's how they want to roll. But yeah, for those who want to hear it, I mean, obviously they wouldn't be sticking around to listen to this conversation otherwise. But I'm wondering, if we want to take it down to like the grassroots, like the baseline, like step one, because maybe for some people, like what we're talking about is like, yeah, it's all well and good, and in theory I understand, I'm following, yeah, it all makes sense, but they're not even at that stage yet. They what would step one be like? Would it be like the question of how much work do you want to put in?
1A and 1B. Okay.
Right.
First thing is I need to know, I need to get on a path. So I need a plan. That's step one. And a plan is in 3 parts. It's what I did in my past, what I'm doing currently, and what am I doing in the future.
Wait,
So I
before
need to
that,
come
you're
up
going to
with
be
a
like
plan.
realization first of all.
So realization, okay, what am I good at would be the past. What am I doing currently, and what do I need to work on would be my future. If you want to look at like character development, if you want to look at it as a personality trait, realize what I did in the past, my past experiences, and how I deal with past scenarios in dealing with my emotions would be my past. My current would be how I deal with my current problem, and my future would be how am I going to deal with problems like this in the future, so I don't experience the bad things that were happening. Okay, so we're looking at the path, and the second way of the you got the plan, and then the second part of that would be the balance, which would be the perspective, which would be two ways of looking at perspective. It would be internally and externally. I have to look at myself in the mirror and say, what am I trying to do? And then the step two part that a lot of people don't talk about is the feedback. I call it the feedback loop. Okay, looking at a decision and going, was that a good decision? Was that a bad decision on the information that I know? And if I had new information, should I have made a better decision? So this is learning from your past experiences, so you don't repeat the same mistakes over and over again. Now, some people, this is harder to do than others, okay? But knowing the path, if you're on a path, know what the great thing is? If I step off the path, guess what? I'm either taking a new path or I need to get back on my current path. So if I'm taking a new path, maybe I have new knowledge or new experience, and I'm going to take this new path. If I get off the path and I go, oh, I don't like this new path. This new path's scary, or it's going to lead to disaster. I need to get back on my old path. And sometimes you need to take life works like that. Sometimes you need to take 4 steps back before you can take 1 step forward. And like I said, people judge people by where they are in their life, and not the journey that they took, because everybody's journey is different. And if everybody learned from other people's journeys, they'd be a lot less judgmental. Because I made probably as many mistakes as Billy's made. Now we made the same mistakes? Hell no. But I'm pretty sure the fact that we're having this conversation, we can relate at some level. And this camaraderie that we have as individuals is what makes life enjoyable. It doesn't matter where I am in my life. It doesn't matter where Billy's at. If I had a question or I want to help Billy out, do I care if Billy's rich or poor? No, I care if Billy's a good person. I mean, I care about more important things than ego and all this other stuff. I want to help Billy as an individual because he's a good guy, and I hope Billy would do the same thing for me. And by helping other people, you have now an accountability person. So this opens you up to being used, but at the same time, always with when shit test, always test everybody else. You should always test your friends. Just, I'm not saying as a mean thing, but like if your friend, if you feel like that little, the little thing that tells you, oh, this is a bad thing to do, and you know what I mean, like that little thing that, well, we shouldn't be going to this dark alley because I'm going to get robbed. That back in the head thing. Trust that thing. That is your in-sense knowledge telling you, guess what? You shouldn't be doing this shit. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people have stopped listening to that part of their head for so long that it's gone. So now you have to use other people to learn how to use it again. It's just like a muscle that you haven't used in a while.
Yeah, and that's another interesting.
To get back to the analogy, if you feel like if I want to go somewhere, you have to have a plan. Any kind of constructive thing that I want to improve on my life, I have to come with a plan. And what does a plan do? A plan gives me 3 things. It gives me where I was, where I'm going in the future. That's 1. 2, it gives me benchmarks. So I have goals now. Okay. And what's a goal? What's the purpose of a goal? It's a benchmark that gives you self-esteem to go to the next benchmark. So if I If when talk about the financial stuff, if I make $1,000 in savings, guess what? Now I can breathe a little bit because I have a savings. Now I can go, stress is gone. Okay, what's my next step? And that's going to make me build more confidence to go, okay, I need to save 3 months of expenses. Okay, now I'm going to save up 3 months of expenses. Now I'm building this self-esteem because guess what? I feel more confident in life. I could take a little more risk. I don't have to be on the nice edge of survival here. And now I have more confidence in what I'm doing. Now I can come up with harder goals. Now I can tackle a budget because before I'm worried about if I'm going to, eat today. We're past that stage. Now I get to enjoy this next step. So this is the plan. Okay. Now a plan needs to have two things. It needs to have, this is where you get the SMART tools. Well, then your goals have to be SMART. And SMART is an acronym. It stands for, okay. M is measurable. A is,
I know that.
I'm gonna have to look it up. I'm drawing a brain fart right now, but it's an acronym for a goal.
Yeah.
Okay, for goals, and these goals. The last thing that people don't talk about is the goals need to be referenced in the future so you can use them for your experience. Because if you don't learn anything from the path, you're just ignorant. You're gonna repeat the same mistakes over and over again. So, the last part of the thing with making goals is having a feedback loop where you need to analyze everything that you've done and say, is this the right thing to do? Should I continue doing this or should I try something new? And most people don't do that aspect because when you come up and this is where the self-actualization comes in, is the feedback loop in this sense. Because you're looking at your life going, did I make a good decision here? Yes or no? Have I made more good decisions in my life or bad decisions? Now that's a personal question, but if I answer I made more good decisions and bad decisions, then okay, I'm making progress. If I made more bad decisions and good decisions, I can't change. I need to understand I can't change the past, but damned if I'm going to make the same mistakes in the future. And this is how you grow. This is how you get out of your problem. Because most people don't change because of two options. Either they don't have a plan, so they're just living life, and then I'm just dust in the wind. I'm just going to do what life tells me to do, and then I blink and I'm 45, and now I regret my decisions because I never lived the life I wanted to live, which is a big regret for people. Two, they overplan, and they're so risk adverse that they can't actually enjoy life. This is where the balance comes in. Three, they just indulge in some hedonistic pleasures and basically slip to it, but they can't experience it.
Robot a bit too much.
But yeah, and
So hold on, Bennett. You're kind of roboting a bit.
really just. Oh, do you hear me now? Is that better? Hello? Better? Worse?
Yeah, you seem to be
Billy?
better now.
Okay.
I think you're all right now.
Where
But can you
okay,
just repeat
perfect.
the last little bit if you can?
Yeah, what I was getting at is if you're hedonistic in a sense, you're going to be a slave to your emotions, and you're just literally living life as getting the next high, the next we'll just use fapping for example. Like I get it, the next pleasure, the next bust, and I'm going to go to the next bust. I'm going to and when you blink, you're 55 years old, and you haven't experienced life because all you've been doing is living in your emotions. And how would I get out of this mess? I'd have to, I'm so slave to my emotions. I need an external pressure on me. So it's either, cops come in and say fapping's illegal. This is where the society comes in. Fapping's illegal. You need to get your shit together, or you're gonna have to have we're gonna have to have a a little session and have you committed to to get some committed help to get you over this
intervention.
obsession. Yeah, to get intervention to get out of this bad place you're in. Now, Is this detox going to be fun? Fuck no. But it's needed in life. Okay. And then the other option is maybe you've never fat before. So guess what? You never experienced it. So you don't even know if it feels good. Now, some might say that might be a good thing because you might be that kind of person that's a slave to their emotions. So prime example, like if you have a dependent personality and you know this, trying drugs is probably the worst thing you possibly could do. So maybe not doing drugs has probably saved your life, even though the person that can handle doing drugs might look at you going like, wow, you lived an unprivileged life. Like, oh my God, like you've never experienced LSD. Holy crap, it's mind blowing. But that person that does LSD might knows themselves as a person, go, I have an addictive personality. If I went down this path, it's gonna lead to destructive life. I can't even risk that. So knowing yourself, that person that's telling you you should do this, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and say, hey, if I did this, the risk is not worth the reward. I'm not doing this. And only I can make that decision. But I only know this because I know myself. This is where you need to look at yourself in the mirror and say, what are my shortcomings? Well, if I have an addictive personality, doing drugs is the worst thing possibly I can do because it could lead to, my life imploding on me. So I might know for myself, would I be robbing myself of that experience? Yes. But for me, it's worth doing. It's kind of like, you ever see Back to the Future, the second one?
Oh yeah.
Do you know when old Marty gets shamed into doing that deal and he gets all those faxes to say, you're fired. Like that big scene with the guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers for Needles. Okay.
Lee.
Needles goes in and says, what are you, chicken? And then
Yeah.
he signs up and then he gets fired. This is
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. If someone pressures you to do something and he knows that he's chicken. Now, if you look at the end of the film, Needles before goes, I'm going to race you. What are you, chicken? It's like, who gives a shit what this guy says? He literally says this. And he puts his car in reverse and he grows as a person because guess what? He didn't do it. And guess what? The whole thing about how his back got messed up is because he hit that Rolls Royce on the race. He didn't do that.
Right.
Now his life is completely changed. Just because
it's kind of like that lesson.
That's the lesson learned in the movie.
But
Freebird,
it's
I
kind
know
of like
LSD is
an
not
old
addictive.
lesson
I'm
of,
just using that as an example. I didn't want to use
but it's that
weed
lesson of
because that's
like,
a
if you
weed
don't, if you're not going to control yourself, someone else is going to control you for you, and that's what you were saying earlier in the conversation as well. It's like it's in your best interest to actually have some self-actualization, self-control to actually develop yourself, because otherwise you're at the mercy of other people.
mercy of other people. It's good and bad because feeling needed and feeling wanted and feeling part of a collective is a human desire. But put too much into that, you become usable. If you say, I don't want to be part of society and I just want to be a loner the whole life, you don't get it to experience life to its fullest.
Well,
So
yeah, I
you
mean,
need to
I
be
suppose it's a
more in the
double-edged
middle.
sword. Like, yeah, and be, so then if you are more in the middle and you're more responsible for yourself, then if you were to be at the mercy of someone else, it's kind of like you do it with their permission in a way, so that, because otherwise you're kind of like you're running a Russian roulette here, where it's kind of, you'll be lucky that someone doesn't take advantage of you if you're that compromised.
Yeah, but if you've been compromised
sooner or later,
multiple
someone will.
times, through, you're not going to make the same mistakes you made in the past. At least you shouldn't if you're a well-rounded adult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't like there are people that, are lacking some things, and that's why I'm speaking in overall terms here, not the extremes. But if if you shun everybody out of your life, you don't get to experience the joys of life or other people's experiences and the joy of being around other people. Now, if you just are living vicariously through your kids, for example, you're not experiencing life. You're just living through your kids. Life's gonna go right by you. But if you live in the middle where I enjoy family time and I appreciate family. We get to do these trips together, but I don't really, it's not the destination that matters. It's who I'm with that matters. This is where
Right, it's the
perspective comes
journey.
in.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
It's not the journey. No.
No?
I'm looking at it's not who I'm with. It's what we're doing together that's important. This is where, like I
Oh,
said
right.
before,
Yeah.
people hanging with people is great. Why is it great? It's because we're doing a shared experience. This is how you get to a deeper meaning in life. It's like like I was just talking about, being with people and being not with people. That's great and all. But in the middle, you actually get the perspective of knowing, oh, what is the true meaning of happiness? It's being around people that love me. I wouldn't experience that if I never went with people.
Oh, sure,
So
sure. Yeah, yeah.
that
I mean,
I
I'm in
gained
a,
this
I'm in
whole
a
brand new
advocate of
meaning of
that.
life
Yeah.
because I'm taking on the risk of being with other people. Okay, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The reward you're getting out of this is leaps and bounds better when you put things in perspective. Now, if you are jaded and you have a billion friends, and guess what, you don't have quality time, you're never going to have that life lesson that we just talked
Right.
about appreciating life for what it is. And the only way you
And
get that
and
is
that's kind of
through
like
balance.
one of the possible meanings, hopefully, like someone might find for themselves, is that opportunity to have the experiences, like you say, like with relations with people, and impart a kind of gift in a way, because you might die tomorrow, but the sort of memories that you had with these other people will live on, and in a sense is a bit of a legacy.
Yep.
Or if you
And
impart
I,
wisdom
I,
in it,
I'm gonna.
people.
I really want you guys to do something with me, and this is almost a game changer. And I want, if anybody, I want to challenge everybody listening to this, even you, Billy. I want you to go um to hospice nurses on YouTube and look up life regrets. They literally have hospice nurses telling you what the most common life regrets are for people when they literally tell them their deathbeds. I regret doing X, Y, and
Yeah.
Z. You want to
I've been to
put
a hospice
knowledge.
when
You
my
want to
dad
put
passed away.
wisdom.
So,
You want to look at what wisdom really is. Listen to their responses. You will learn more about life through a hospice nurse telling you these things than you'll probably learn than I could tell you through my past experiences. I'm telling you right now, if you did this, the amount of perspective you'll gain, and it's honestly, if you take this knowledge, and this is where we're going to get the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is information, wisdom is knowing how to apply it. Okay? So, the nurses are telling us knowledge, but the wisdom is how I'm going to apply this knowledge. So, if you look at what these people value, what they regret, the wisdom would be, how do I not live a life of getting the net result of these answers? So I'm going to tell you right now, I can't do it justice, but for the most part, what's the number one regret of people? Not spending more time with friends and family. Who gives a shit if you get it, if you made that bonus at work? What really matters in life is the people around you. And I would argue right now, like, it's depressing as hell, but you'll learn so much about yourself and through other people. And what I'm trying to talk to you guys about is listen to a hospice nurse tell you what people regret. And if you look at what people are regretting and try to live a life where you won't have those regrets when you die, you'll live a full life. I'm telling you right now, most of the time it comes down to not looking at your life and when you had the ability to go left, you went right, and that key decision changed your avenue of life. That is a major regret. That would be, not asking a girl out that you thought you liked, or not making a move when you should have made the move. These are life regrets that will haunt people for the rest of their lives. Not spending time with friends and family enough. Um, Not going on that vacation that you really wanted to because X, Y, Z happened. This is stuff that they talk about. I guarantee you, look at what you make a list of these videos, and you make a list of what these people talk about,
Okay,
and then
you're,
live
you're
life this
roboting
way.
again,
I
but we
guarantee
can
you, you're
just
going to live a
about make
happier
out what you're
life.
saying. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is this better? I don't know why
Profound
I'm
stuff
cutting
you're
out.
saying here. And if you haven't been writing this down,
But
you people,
yeah,
you better be writing it down.
yeah,
Don't live your life with regrets. Like if you got something you want to say it. Like
yeah, yeah. And I'm really telling you, like, this is where, like, you're gonna learn this. This is where I'm saying, like, learn from your elders. Listen to a hospice nurse tell you what people regret, and this is how you make a happy life. So you're learning from someone's past experience. You're literally saying, I listened to 5 videos that I watched. It was tough listening to it, but what are the most um what are the things that people always regret? If I change my life, guess what? I'm gonna live a happy life. I could almost guarantee if you follow that wisdom right there, that would change your life for forever, for the positive. All it is understanding what perspective to look for. If you're
and
lacking
there's so much
this,
you
let's find why.
and there's so much built into that as well, because there's going to be huge amounts of appreciation. Stop bitching and complaining. There's going to be huge amounts of gratitude, much more fulfillment, and peace of mind as well. Because if you do live fully in this way, where you don't really have any regrets because you went out and actually did the things that you are regretting, then much more content, like you were saying earlier, like contentment, happiness. So it's really a loaded in a good positive way, but there's so much. It's a
Yep, and
bountiful fruit or something.
and you said the $1 million word. You know what the $1 million word is? Contentment. What is
Fucking
life?
bitching and
What is no. What is
contentment.
happiness?
Yeah,
What is
yeah,
true
satisfied,
happiness? Is
satisfied.
contentment. Okay?
Right, yeah.
Anything over contentment gets you into hedonistic, and not enough contentment gets you survival mode, which is the poorer
Well,
end. Okay?
that I mean,
Contentment
it's
is
one of the expressions
that
of
should be the
like
target for everybody, is to be happy for what you freaking have.
it
There's
doesn't
always
need
going
to
to
be
be people that
perfect.
have more stuff than you, and there's always going to be people that have less stuff than you. Even if you're
Right.
Jeff Bezos, you're still going to have people that are there's still going to be oil tycoons that have more money than you have. So why chase that carrot that you can never get? Have contentment.
Right.
Contentment equals
mean,
happiness. That is
you could always make the argument like, oh, I wish I got a regret. I wish I spent more time with family. However, I did spend some time with family, and okay, I would have liked some more, but I'm content with what I've got. So I've spent enough to be able to be content with it.
But okay, this is the aspect that I knew. This is the peeling of the onion. Okay.
Bandit, I don't know. Wait, hold on a second, Bandit. I don't know. Can you hear me, Bandit? I don't know if you can. You're roboting really bad.
Yeah, I can hear
I
you.
don't know if there's anything you could.
I don't know
Is there
why I'm
something you could do about
roboting.
that?
I literally haven't moved my phone. It's been like 6 inches from my face the whole time. Is this better?
It is a lot better. Yeah, thank
Do
you.
you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
So the
Nice
last
and
thing I
clear.
forgot to mention is the peeling of the onion. So you got to look at deeper meanings in everything. This is like when I was talking about the inchworm. Everything has a deeper meaning than the first layer. The first layer, when you look at spending time with the family, okay, that's great. Weapons of my family's crap. It's not a, and then you look at it, okay, maybe it's not about family. Maybe it's about being being around people that love me and people that I share time with. That's another layer. Then you peel the onion back even more. Maybe it's about feeling of connectiveness with people that care about me and appreciate what I do. Then you peel the onion back some more. Maybe it's not about the people. Maybe it's about the experiences of being around people that I shared a really good experience that made me happy, and that happiness I had to pass on to someone else. And then you go and it goes even deeper. Then you realize, what is love? Love is service to someone else. And then you go, if I serve other people, oh my God, there it is. There's the eureka moment. Now, if I put this into perspective, if I bring people up, I can be happier because I can live vicariously through them, or in the sense that they're going to pass my knowledge, and I'm going to feel like I have a legacy. So then I realized, what am I missing in my life? It's legacy. So I went through this whole thing, and I finally realized, what I'm missing? What is what I'm driving for my happiness? It's legacy. And then I can answer, okay, legacy is my big hole in my life. How do I fix legacy? Okay, maybe I do a trust. Maybe I do a nonprofit. Maybe I have a family. Maybe I mentor other people. Maybe I adopt a kid. Maybe there's so many different ways of leaving a legacy. And maybe by leaving a legacy, now I guess what? That was the deeper meaning by what that guy said about spending more time with family. My personal take to it is, it's legacy. I wanted to spend time with people that love me, and I see the generations and how family has grown and through the past experience. So legacy was my hole. Now, if I fill that legacy hole with something that is positive, oh my God, you just gave my life meaning. I have purpose now. I have a goal. I have a plan. All this crap that I didn't have, I was, in a sense, bringing back to the original argument where it's saying about, I'm on the river. I'm just letting the current take me where now I have a plan. I have a purpose. I'm driven. I have everything I need in life to make me do this goal now. And let's go. Now I'm hyper focused on this, giving my life purpose, which is giving me happiness. And now I don't have regrets. Like, oh my God, this is an amazing life now. And look, and it's all what I do by that. I just looked at a scenario and just kept peeling the onion back until I got to the root reason of what that is. So that, what I just explained to you, that's self-actualization. It's taking a scenario and going, oh, here's the top layer. Here's the next layer. And then I finally figured out what I was missing is legacy in this scenario.
Yeah.
And by filling this legacy hole, now I got a new meaning in life. I have a purpose. I'm driven now. I have a meaning. And guess what? All these aspects, they can't be taken from me. It doesn't matter if I'm rich or poor. If I'm striving for this legacy, it doesn't matter how big of a legacy. I could leave a legacy of a business, or I could leave a legacy in donating $200 to my favorite organization. What you can behind, it's not about how much, it's an act of doing it. It's the act of meeting people in the way, the friends that you build, all these opportunities happen because I took this risk of to go down this path. That's how you fix someone's life. You asked that original question, how do I fix someone's life? That's how you do it.
So you're roboting again, but I mean I caught what you're saying. Hopefully everyone else can catch it as well. So
yeah, I don't know why I'm roboting. I'm so sorry about that.
I mean, we're gonna pretty much end it in a minute, but because it's just like 3 hours we've been streaming. But I really appreciate that kind of onion analogy, because it's kind of like in the spirit of the series that we're going to be doing, this deconstruct, getting down to the core, keeping it simple kind of thing, peeling the onion as you're describing it, working out what's there that matters truly, and sort of like encapsulating it in kind of simplistic, like use simple language so that it's clear and understandable, and you can be like, yes, I have the essence of what it is I'm
I'm missing or needing or what I'm about, and knowing that therefore, like if it was holes, like what holes need to be plugged in, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But so much what wisdom, knowledge. I can't give you a big. Oh, I'm lost for words. Show you my appreciation and gratitude for everything you've contributed to here tonight. I hope everyone's been paying attention, because there's so much Bandit has been sharing with us, and I think very pertinent, important, not just life like lessons, not per se, but the nuances, the spirituality, the depth, and I think it is worth going back and listening to it again, and like really ingest and take in and absorb like what is being said and his what's been given to us here,
But
because
I really, and
it's
I
not like
truly mean this, guys. I really want you guys to spend an hour and just look up hospice nurses' biggest regrets for people before they die, and put an open mind.
hey, I think
Because
secretly, I mean,
honestly,
definitely do that. I think
it's
I think
morbid, but like the amount of life lessons you're going to learn is such a, if you're lacking purpose, which is what a lot of people are right now, this will give you the drive in a healthy way to figure out where you're lacking in your life, and give you the courage and the drive path to make better decisions. Like, for example, if you feel like you're taking a risk in life, this might be the way you need. If you feel like you have that this might give you perspective. So I can't stress this on some more topic, but really
you're roboting
going down
again really bad. I think what you're saying is to go to the
I
hospital.
don't know why. I'm really like I'm looking at my
Every time you
router. My router is literally like
come back is like strong and clear. It's like I don't know why. Yeah, I heard that bit, but the bit about the hospital
yeah, I
is just
don't
breaking
understand.
up
Like,
on us.
yeah, I'm literally like a foot and a half from my router, so I have no idea why it's acting this way. But what I was saying is, I know
think another
looking at I know hospice nurses is and finding about regrets is a morbid topic, but the amount of life lessons you're going to learn and giving you direction, because most men and people in general, they lack purpose. They're hungry for a purpose, or they feel like they're not taking enough risks. This is going to put everything in perspective and give hopefully they'll give you the self-esteem to take more risks, or the encouragement to try new things, or the plan and the drivenness to leave a legacy, or live life to the fullest, whatever your shortcomings. This should help you get you perspective and where you should want to go in your life. This is going to prevent you from having that existential crisis when you're 50 years old.
Sure. I think also, like, maybe I'm being a bit too bold or something, but speaking on behalf of those in the hospice, I think as a sort of parting gift in a way, to know that they can help give you permission to exist and to do things, and to live a full life, I think is a nice way, a nice thing, a nice gesture of return you can give to them, knowing that you actually like took on. I know it sounds a bit morbid, like it's a bit of a grim point
But
in
it's
time and
not grim.
stuff, but
What's the last thing
no,
someone
it's
tells you before they die? Don't make the
right. I
same
mean,
freaking mistakes I made. That's
right, and
what
and
you
it
hear
can
it
be
in
quite
movies, you
a
hear it in
nice,
life.
actually. Yeah, yeah. So maybe not look at it so meekly, but look at it as a kind of a blessing, and be like, you know what, someone's actually telling me to, pull my finger out and get on with things, and don't live a life of regret, and appreciate it, and have some gratitude and be happy for it and all this. And you have permission as well. Like, because some people might feel like with their low self-esteem, they feel guilt if they were to have, if they were, you mean enjoy life, I feel guilty and I feel shame, I don't think I should, so it's like, no, get that kind of stuff out your head. And
No, that is either my scenario, the rich or the poor trying to control you. That's what it is. That's all it is. And and another allegory for rich and
where that
poor
kind of
is
thinking come from, because that's not really
politics.
Right. So Bandit, you got some parting words you want to not in that sense of parting words, but I mean, you want closing words you want to say, because we're gonna
closing words is, I guess everybody's on a different path. Don't be mad at where people are located on that path. Just understand everybody has their struggles, and embrace the journey. It's not about the starting point or the ending point. It's about the decisions and how the journey goes. Journeys are not in a straight line. They're filled with going forward and backwards, left and right, over hills, over obstacles. Embrace those challenges, because that's what in the end, those challenges are going to make you better as a person. So don't look at life as it's too hard. Look at life as, strap me in a roller coaster and let's enjoy the ride.
Yeah, definitely enjoy the ride. Yeah, ups and downs and roundabouts and things. Cool. Okay, well, everyone in the chat, would you be so kind to say thank you to Bandit for being here and imparting his wisdom on us? You lucky bastards, you. And again, Bandit, so I really appreciate you joining me here on this panel, and more than welcome to come again. And I feel like I could talk to you for forever, basically, for ages on this stuff. There's so much relatability, and the good feels.
Well, I'm always here, so whatever you want to do, everyone do a
stream,
stream, just let me know.
Just do us a favor. Can you like improve your internet connection or something? So you're a robot.
Yes.
Yes.
I will work on that. Really bad.
Around Q, it starts to robot.
But yes, I will work on that.
Yeah, sorry. Don't mean to nag. I'm keeping you in.
No, it's all right. I will work.
Yeah, that's me giving you some accountability there. Accountability, buddy. Like, sort your internet out.
And am I freaking out? Am I going, no, I'm a robot? No, I'm accepting it, and I will work.
Okay. All right. So Bandit, I'm gonna drop you out. Hopefully not while you're trying to say something, but okay, I'm gonna put you backstage, or we can have a little chat afterwards. But yeah, so adios, Bandit. Wonderful. I hope that was a great discussion. Like, yeah, like so much. I learn a lot, and really appreciate that conversation. So I guess I'll be going my ways as well now. You've been very patient and attentive listening, so I really appreciate that, and thank you for showing the love. Hopefully this stream, these conversations, these topics, they're of use, they are beneficial. Always, I'm sure like speaking on Bandit's behalf, like reach out to whoever you feel, talk, build your relations, build on that sort of intimacy. Now, I don't mean it in a kinky way, but you know what I mean, like relationship intimacy. It's all right. Open up. Make sure you exercise your diligence and things like that. Don't just be like crying your eyes out being hysterical, obviously, but or unless that's necessary. I think you get what I mean. But honesty and transparency is important, so that you don't end up with, like as Bandit in the closing there saying, like, people with regret, because that is a life killer. And that's something I think a big topic, a big relatable part everyone can sort of find common ground with this sort of regret, and try not to incur more of it. This is when people start to bitch and moan. So have some optimism. There are people who care about you. There are people who love you dearly, who are concerned, and they worry, and because you matter, and because you should already know it. So cherish your friendships, cherish your relationships, cherish your memories. Think about what matters to you. And it's okay to need help and assistance, and to need support, and to lean on to people. And in time, maybe some people will come to you and need you to help them. And that is how probably, like, humanity has managed to survive eons of years, is by being a community that's actually a proper, cohesive, understanding community. Anyway, jabbering on. So thank you all. See you on the next one, I guess. Have a good night.